Put up this tweet right now from TMZ talking about Joe Biden possibly withdrawing. A source within TMZ source has learned one top campaign official is privately telling at least one mega donor that, quote, it's only a matter of time.
Well, that certainly sounds ominous. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel. And I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, I try to keep you all up to date on these kind of things. So much has been happening so quickly. So much has been happening so fast. And I know tomorrow we're going to do our 4th of July program here, which is a non-holiday tradition in the new Black Media. Certainly for those of you who are here. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. But I felt like it was incumbent to stay up to the minute on this now. You're going to get a lot of reports. You're going to get a lot of information. You're going to get a lot of folks yelling and screaming certain things. What they feel, what they think, what they heard somewhere. But you got to understand, when you start seeing things pile up, that's really what you want to take a look at. I want to show you this one thing here from the New York Post. This is a video from the New York Post. And by the way, fair use on everything tonight, but from the New York Post, this is something that they posted earlier today. And I thought this was rather accurate in this regard, that despite what you're seeing them say in public, Biden has reportedly told an ally that he knows he'll have to bow out of the race if he can't turn things around in the coming days, and we really do mean days. So we all saw how the debate went, or how it did not go. Biden has made a couple of appearances, taking no questions. And by the way, as you can see here, he's got some campaign stops in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin over the 4th of July holiday. So that's starting tomorrow. But more importantly, he is scheduled for an ABC interview with George Stephanopoulos. Now, this matters, and this is important. The reason why it matters and it's important is because, for those of us who are old enough to remember, George Stephanopoulos worked for Bill Clinton. So George Stephanopoulos is not a journalist. George Stephanopoulos worked for the Democrats. Literally worked in the White House for the Democrats. Literally worked for Bill Clinton. Now, here's the issue. The issue is, if it's not a live interview, then it's not going to do any good. What? The problem is, if it's not a live interview, it's not going to do them any good. Sitting down and having an edited, curated video and, we sat down and talked to him. I'm just telling you right now, that's not going to encourage anyone's confidence. Not going to encourage anybody's confidence. That won't work. What folks want to see is a live questioning of this man. He hasn't done a press conference. It's not looking so great out there. Not looking so great at all. So what we're saying here is that what his advisors have obviously told him is he's got to hop back on the horse immediately. He doesn't even get any downtime. He's got to hop back on the horse now. Now, I want to go a little bit further right now and say some things here. I want to go a little bit further because I didn't talk about this before, but I want to have an opportunity to speak about this now. It is my analysis, Jason Black's analysis, and of course, the 720 degrees of insight and perspective and data-driven analysis that you'll receive absolutely nowhere else. You know my track record on calling things. You know my track record on saying these things. I don't talk about it unless I know. And there are some things that I've seen that I consider to be rather ominous for Joe Biden. First of all, let's be very clear about something. Joe Biden was not supposed to be a two-term president, or at least that was not really the analysis they were looking at. It was just that he won in 2020, and they understood that there were some fundamental flaws even then. He chose Kamala Harris, who so obviously, I told you from day one, they don't want her in the White House at all. She is here to be his shield against all them chicks jumping up out the woodwork talking about, hey, Joe Biden grabbed my rump back in the day. So she was his shield because she was female and a minority. But you all remember I said from day one, no. They already scuttled Kamala. You all remember from day one I have been consistent. Biden didn't bring her in to succeed him. He brought her in specifically to make sure she didn't. So she makes good window dressing, but it's also very clear she ain't going no further. As you all remember, I said this before the 2020 election, and I've been consistent the entire time. And now 4 years later, everybody and their mama is saying, yeah, what Jason said 4 years ago, they're now conceding to it. That she couldn't win, and that was never the goal. They made her the czar of the border, and then Biden blows up the border and refuses to have any control of the border right after saying, by the way, Kamala, you're in charge of it. She's the vice president. She ain't in charge of a damn thing. So that was the end of her. Biden gets to the White House, and what was supposed to happen was probably they were supposed to find another person. Here's the issue. Donald Trump didn't go away. Trump was sitting out there and he refused to concede the election. And this is what has worked. He's just been such a bully and so belligerent, and he has just refused to back down that eventually you have to concede to him. So Trump didn't go away. He's kept up the pressure, and he's been there. He's basically been campaigning for president since 2020. That was what Biden and the Democrats didn't count on. They didn't count on Donald Trump. He's not going away. All the stuff that we told the Democrats to do to get the black vote that they refused to do, Donald Trump has not left the scene. He has been campaigning for president for 4 years. So for those of you who are familiar with like Game of Thrones, he has essentially crowned himself as a king in exile. So for those of you who are familiar with your monarchy histories around the world or Game of Thrones, he has just basically been acting as a king in exile. And that one day he's coming back to take the throne. So he needs all of his followers to stay devoted. He needs all of his followers to stay in allegiance because he ain't going nowhere. And what he has done as a result, see, here's where these folks get this kind of stuff wrong. What he's done as a result is he's crafted an image. Now, I want to show you something else here. This is from MSNBC, and they talked to this political analyst. I don't know who she is. I'm not even certain what her name was on the screen. Kimberly Atkins Stower. They talked to her. And I want you all to take a look and listen. This is what happens when you don't know what you're doing. No disrespect to the lady here, but this is what happens when you've got a microphone and an opinion, but not a bunch of facts involved. This is what happens.
Did we see 1980 instead of...
By the way, MSNBC, I know you're going to hate it, but fair use for you too.
the president, or even saying I support the president or whoever the nominee will be. And in this moment, you have Democrats not just privately but publicly bickering and fighting with one another about what should be done now, this far past the primary. When what is the alternative? Nobody is asking. The question is, okay, what if Biden steps aside? What now? Have we seen?
Everyone is asking the question, if he steps aside, what now? That's why there's a panic. So once again, these are their analysts on here. Their analysts are on here and completely ignorant of the facts on the ground. Everybody's been asking, if he doesn't run, who do we have? Kamala Harris obviously can't make it out the gate. Governor Pritzker, if he gets on a diet, but then again, that won't help him. You'd have to pry him away from Krispy Kreme long enough to get him on the campaign trail. Bernie Sanders, forget about it. Y'all nuked him. Hillary Clinton, the only person in worse mental decline than Joe Biden. Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom doesn't play outside of Florida. Doesn't play outside of California any more than Michael Bloomberg played outside of New York, any more than Ron DeSantis played outside of Florida. So these are people from large states that get a lot of ink. But Gavin Newsom is generally regarded as a sexual deviant, a pervert, and a failure. So he plays in California, in Southern California, and literally nowhere else. So other than the New York media liking to talk to him, hey, you're a deviant like us. Let's go to Jeffrey Epstein's island together. Other than that, the only place he's popular outside of California is the New York media. Other than that, no way. So these are the people that they pay for their analysis on MSNBC. They pay them for it to get it shockingly wrong.
What he's asking, the question is, okay, what if Biden steps aside? What now? Have we seen how Democrats handle open conventions or anything close to that? Do we remember 1968 when Johnson decided not to run again? How did that end? That ended with the election of Richard Nixon. Did we see 1980 when jittery Democrats thought maybe that Ted Kennedy can come to the rescue? How did that end? With the inauguration of Ronald Reagan. Even in 2016, not an open convention. Hillary Clinton won it. I was there in Philadelphia when you had so many Bernie Sanders delegates booing and crying and vetching as she accepted the nomination, many of those doing things like voting for Jill Stein. And how did that end? With the election of Donald Trump.
Oh, they're still smarting over that Green Party thing. Here's the real issue. What these folks never ask is, by the way, why did Hillary Clinton not have enough votes? And it was plain to see from the beginning, she lacked the black vote. The descendants did not back her. The final bill for Bill Clinton, the final invoice for Bill Clinton and the 90s and the prison industrial complex that was dogging her the entire time. They refused to acknowledge that. She attempted to ignore the black vote, and the black vote ignored her. That was what happened. And yet they won't say a word about that, because then they would have to acknowledge what in the world's going on. So that was what happened in 2016. And it looks like we're going to have a repeat in 2024.
Jill Stein got more votes in Michigan than the difference between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in.
Oh, so in other words, when Lawrence O'Donnell told you that it was only 55 million people who watched the debate, first of all, my God, Lawrence, 55 million? You act like that's 400 people. No, it wasn't. 55 million people watched the debates. Joe Biden only won by 10,000 votes in Georgia? Yeah, 55 million people watched. You think Trump can get 15,000 people out of that in Georgia? So a lot of these folks are just sitting here. The cope is thicker than peanut butter. It's thicker than trying to walk through hard peanut butter. And yet this is what they're stuck trying to do.
That state. Democrats don't do that well. What Democrats need to do is take a page from Republicans and say, we understand the existence.
What? So what she's saying is that what Democrats need to do is be more like Republicans if they're going to campaign. Now, here's the fundamental flaw in what the lady, I won't say flaw, but here's the problem with what the lady just said. Ma'am, if we need to vote, if the Republicans are able to run better than the Democrats, why would you vote for the Democrats? Why wouldn't you just go ahead and vote for the actual Republican? Why would you vote for a Democrat who's only going to do one thing on the campaign trail the way the Republicans would, and it's not just one thing? Why don't you just go ahead and get full flavor Republican? Why would you get Republican light or single ingredient Republican? And if the Republicans are better and smarter at this, once again, why do you not just give them the keys? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Jill Stein, and how did that end? With the election of Donald Trump. Jill Stein got more votes in Michigan than the difference between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in that state. Democrats don't do that well. What Democrats need to do is take a page from Republicans and say, we understand the existential threat that we are facing. We are seeing a presidential candidate who already is saying he will be a dictator from day one, and who believes, falsely, but he believes it, that the Supreme Court just gave him absolute immunity. We have a president who cognitively bragged about being able to say person, man, woman, camera, TV, but who stood on television and told everyone to inject disinfectant, and is now doing campaign rallies about, I don't know, electrical currents and sharks. And nobody is doing an hour-long press conference asking him about that, the way we saw the hour-long press conference asking 1,000 ways about Joe Biden's court.
Primarily because when Trump was asked a question, he actually sounded coherent. Biden didn't even sound conscious. So what she's lamenting is that she wishes that Joe Biden was the candidate that Trump is. Rather than acknowledge the fundamental flaw, they're sitting up here holding on even harder to it. So trying to come up with witty one-liners isn't making Biden a better candidate. It really, really isn't. It just looks weird and it's hella cringe.
Democrats need to buck up, look at the threat, and fight against that threat and stop fighting against each other. Our democracy depends on it, and time is up.
Our democracy depends on it, and time is up. Ma'am, I thought that the country was united under Jim Crow Joe. There's the issue. If the country, you say that he's going to unite the country, he can't even unite his own party. So the issue here is not a candidate anymore. The issue here is the whole party when you get down to it. It's not one country united under God. It's one party divided as hell. And that's basically where they're at. It is a rough time to be them. Now, I want to go back and play something for you here because I want you to hear this again. I want to go back and play this because I want you to listen to this part because this is coming off of what I was saying here before. I want you to hear everything she said here one more time.
When you had so many Bernie Sanders delegates booing and crying and vetching as she accepted the nomination, many of those doing things like voting for Jill Stein. And how did that end? With the election of Donald Trump. Jill Stein got more votes in Michigan than the difference between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in that state. Democrats don't do that well. What Democrats need to do is take a page from Republicans and say, we understand the existential threat that we are facing. We are seeing a presidential candidate who already is saying he will be a dictator from day one, and who believes, falsely, but he believes it, that the Supreme Court just gave him absolute immunity. We have a president who cognitively bragged about being able to say person, man, woman, camera, TV, but who stood on television and told everyone to inject disinfectant.
So every time they get together here, you notice what she's doing.
And is now.
You notice what she's doing.
In campaign.
This might make you feel better to sit up here and talk about Donald Trump's a bad person. Okay, that might make you feel better. Here's the problem. The problem is that you're not saying one good thing about Joe Biden. That's the issue. This is not about whether or not you agree with Trump, like Trump, or anything else. She isn't saying a single word that should encourage you to support her candidate. That's the problem. Folks, it doesn't matter whether the candidate is Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, or Toucan Sam. For those of you a little bit younger, look it up. This is an election. This is a presidential election. There's a political election, and she's not saying anything positive about her candidate. So remember, folks, all publicity is good publicity, especially if you're not putting any good publicity on your opponent. And she's not saying a word about Joe Biden. That doesn't encourage people. Let me remind you all again, people will vote for you if you shock them. People will vote for you if you offend them. But people will not vote for you if you scare them. People are not going to vote for you if they are afraid of you. And right now, people are afraid of Joe Biden. They're afraid of what's happening. They're afraid of what's going on in the room when we're not watching. They're afraid, and none of these people are addressing that issue. And the more they dodge that issue, the more glaring it becomes. All right, let me go ahead and go over a few other things right here. As far as candidates, let's go ahead and go about candidates here. Folks, in the chat room, some of you said Wes Moore. Okay, up there in Maryland. Here's the problem with Wes Moore. Wes Moore is known among Democrats to a certain degree, but he would have to win the whole country, and that includes more than Democrats. Wes Moore doesn't have, he's a governor, but he's not really well known. So he's going to need like a year. Barack Obama came out of nowhere, yeah, but he ran for president for 2 years. Wes Moore hasn't. Furthermore, in the chat room, you make a good point. He hasn't really been tested on the national stage to find out if he's personable. The bridge Francis Scott Key Bridge getting knocked down in Port of Baltimore. Yeah, that put him in the national spotlight, and he hasn't vomited all over himself. But he has not been able to put in that long tail to be able to get out there in front of the people. He hasn't been able to put in the time to get himself known and familiar to the people. Without that, it doesn't work. He doesn't have it. Without that, it doesn't work. And there really isn't anybody else. Usually Democrats would look at New York. That's usually what Democrats would do. They would look at New York. But you can't do that either. The Cuomos, their political dynasty is dead. Mayor Adams, he's only slightly more popular than COVID, although some days he loses to COVID. Governor Hochul, all I can say is if you thought Hillary Clinton was uncharming, listen to her for about 30 seconds. Governor Whitmer is toxic. Governor Whitmer locked her state down, and that's the only thing she's known for now is going after people's rights. So Governor Whitmer doesn't play south of the Mason-Dixon line. Hell, she doesn't play outside of Michigan. So, no, you can't go grab these niche people who don't really have any following or any sort of appeal outside of their state. People raised in certain states, you pick up certain quirky things. Like, for example, now I'm from Louisiana. So, for example, sports, hunting is big here. Being a sportsman is big here. V8 engines and muscle cars are big here. Guns are big here. For better or worse, food is big here. You cross up into Arkansas, it's Louisiana light. Then you keep going up into, Missouri, and that changes. They don't operate the way we do. Keep going up into Illinois, and it's a whole different country. That's the problem. So, yeah, those are great things that are popular in Louisiana. And then you move outside of the state and realize, oh, it's not quite the same. Some things translate in other areas. Arkansas, the Sun Belt. Yeah, but Michigan is a niche product. California is a niche product. New York is a niche product. Trump is from New York, but he doesn't act like a New Yorker. He acts like your old grandpa from Texas. And that's the difference. Gavin Newsom acts like a Californian. He wants to take your car from you and give you an electric car. He wants to run your life. I'm like, okay, that's typical California politician. That doesn't play outside of California. California might be okay accepting that state of affairs. The rest of the country is not. So he's a niche product that has no appeal outside of where he is. Neither does Wes Moore. Pete Buttigieg, once again, that's not going to work. Beto O'Rourke didn't work. So they don't have anybody who plays outside of the small political circles that they're in. And you have four, if you dump Biden now, which by the way, technically speaking, would be practically impossible. Technically speaking, it would be practically impossible to dump him. First of all, folks who talk about the 25th Amendment, you would have to get his cabinet to do that. So if Joe Biden's cabinet turns on him, but what does that look like if his cabinet turns on him? It looks like a civil war in the Democrat Party, and nobody's going to vote for a party that looks like it's in a civil war. That's not going to work. And that's the real reason why Professor Age Dreads here doesn't get it. The reason why Joe Biden has basically lost the election, and there's not going to be a whole lot you can do about that, but the reason why he's basically lost it is because you've refused to concede to the reality. Like it or not, you're not dealing with politics. This isn't New York politics, people. This is power dynamics. Trump looks like the strong man. In times of, if you're going to try to scare people, in times of uncertainty, people gravitate to the individual who looks the most stable, looks the most solidified, looks the strongest, looks like he is most certain. Listen to me very carefully right now, because this is how a lot of folks get themselves taken in by con men and fraudsters and crypto bros and everything else. Listen to me carefully, people. People take most confidence in the person who is most certain of themselves. What? And not certain of external things. Joe Biden right now is telling the world that he's not certain about himself. How can I have confidence in you when you're literally holding press conferences to tell me, or political rallies to tell me, I don't walk as well as I used to, I don't talk as well as I used to, I don't think as well as I used to, but hey, I'm being honest. Yes, you're being honest that you're weak. That's the problem. You're being honest. The only thing you seem to be certain about is that you are weak. And if you are one of the diehard supporters of him, you'll accept that. But then again, you'll accept voting for a rusty nail. Okay, the rest of the world is not with you on the suicide pact. Donald Trump, say what you will, he is obviously eminently confident in himself. That's the product that Trump is selling. Trump, remember, on the political campaign, you're selling yourself. You are a product. Trump is selling himself. Joe Biden has just lost the ability to sell Joe Biden. He just lost it. Now his surrogates and whatnot are running around, and they don't really have anything they can lean on. So they're saying, well, Trump is a bastard. Okay, but you're not telling us that what's so great about Biden. And here's where it gets worse. Trump is the strong man. And we all know how nations deal with, as far as strong men. They tend to gravitate towards strong men. But to make matters worse for them here, you're sitting up here and you throw Biden up there. And Biden, you're trying to talk about how bad Trump is. Here's the problem. Nobody cares about Biden's track record because even before the debate night, his track record was already something not really to brag about. The country doesn't really care about the last 4 years. The country wants to know what's going to happen for the next 4 years. The country is looking forward. The Democrats are happy. Keep my abortion. Okay. But the country's not looking backwards. You're telling the country to look backwards. This is an election about looking forward. Who do you give the steering wheel going forward? The guy who's prone to doing donuts in the middle of the intersection, or the guy who doesn't even know he's in a car or an intersection? Who do you give the keys to? One of them's a daredevil, but the other one doesn't even know if he's driving a car or a passenger, or if he's sitting on the outside of it. That brings me to the next thing. It's politics. It is politics. And when you are dealing with politics, people just understand something. Politics, there's an old saying, if you want a friend, in politics, get a dog. Better not rely on the people. You better not rely on the people. You attempt to do that, you are in bad shape. Jason, what are you talking about? See, the whole goal of these political campaigns, this is political theater. This political theater. Their goal is to make you think it's the end of the world if you don't vote for them. It's a crisis. Every election they tell you it's a crisis. Every election is a crisis now. You must show up. It's the end of the world if you don't show up, because these are political campaign advisors, and this is the strategy they always make up, that people won't show up if you don't make them think there's a crisis. So you got to make everybody think there's a crisis, otherwise they're not going to be motivated to show up. They're going to sit home with their cell phones. So they tell you it's a crisis. They ain't sitting back thinking it's no damn crisis. They're going to the golf course. They're going on 4th of July picnics. It ain't no damn crisis. They just want you to regard it as one so you show up in November. Gavin Newsom is not going to lose a wink of sleep if Joe Biden loses, because Gavin Newsom, as far as he's concerned, that helps grease the skids for him. That helps grease the skids for him. And let there be no mistake about it, Gavin Newsom is running for president. He's already getting himself out there now because he's already trying to flex his muscles to see if he can be president. He won't. But he's already flexing his muscles to see that. But you're going to have to do two things. Number one, you're going to have to eclipse Joe Biden. Not very hard to do under the current circumstances. But number two, you are going to have to set yourself up as the preeminent personality in the party. Well, that means that whether you like it or not, you're going to have to knock off Kamala. You're going to have to go at her, and you're going to have to knock her off. If she decides that she wants to run again, which would be a disaster, but she'll probably just take the money and run, you're going to have to knock her off and any and all other comers. So you're going to have to get ready to throw elbows. And what I'm saying is, you can't wait until 2025 to do that. If you're going to take out Joe Biden and come out, if you're going to take out the Biden White House, you're going to have to do it now. You're going to have to do it now. And that brings me back to what I was showing you here at the beginning of the program. Folks, I did tonight's program here because I want you to understand there has actually been a campaign against Joe Biden all this time from within the Democrat Party. There has actually been a campaign against him to weaken him at best and to remove him before his second term at worst. I want you to listen to this. By the way, fair use to you too, Fox. Now, this is from earlier today. And there are folks out there saying things I want you to hear this, and I'm going to help put it in context for you.
Put up this tweet right now from TMZ talking about Joe Biden possibly withdrawing. A source within TMZ source has learned one top campaign official is privately telling at least one mega donor that, quote, it's only a matter of time before Biden bows out. We're going to be joined right now by TMZ executive producer Michael Babcock. Michael, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And maybe what can you tell us about what the sources are telling TMZ about the future of his campaign for re-election?
Hey, Andy, thanks for having me. I think you just summed it up perfectly. While the Biden campaign and Joe Biden himself have obviously tried to make it very clear since Thursday, or really since Friday morning, that Joe Biden is not going anywhere, that he is going to be the candidate and he is going to see this thing through the election in November. You've got people behind the scenes and not just behind the scenes anywhere, but people, Andy, that are a major part of his campaign, his re-election campaign, who are freaking out, frankly, behind the scenes and having these conversations, like you said, with someone who is a major donor, somebody who...
Well. So, and this is coming from, by the way, folks, I'm just playing the one from TMZ in case you wanted to know. They've been saying this on multiple networks all morning. I got other clips. I mean, they've been saying this all morning. So TMZ is going for the dirt. And by the way, like it or not, TMZ's track record of accuracy and digging up gossip and getting the dirt on people is fairly impressive. So like it or not, this isn't about what you like. It's about what reality is. Okay, what did he just tell you? He just told you we got folks behind the scenes and they are talking to donors. They're talking to big money donors. All of y'all have seen House of Cards on Netflix. If you're going to run for president in 4 years, what you gonna do? Who do you go talk to? Do you go talk to Nancy Pelosi? Or do you go talk to the money men and tell them, hey, if you drop about 20 mil on this campaign here, and get a fella out the gate with a head of steam so I can get name recognition over all these other people here. You go talk not to other politicians, you go talk to the money men. You see, it's not necessary to go talk to the other politicians because every politician in Washington thinks that they are suitable to be president. That's the problem with if Joe Biden does drop out of the race. It creates this massive scramble because literally every other politician in DC thinks that they should be president. Nobody goes to Washington because they think they should be a senator or a congressman. They go to Washington because they think they should be president. So if what they're telling you is that folks are talking behind the scenes and they're doing two things. Number one, they are murmuring against Joe Biden. What was it that Professor Crash Cup here, or whoever she is, what was it that she was complaining about? Democrats murmuring against Joe Biden behind the scenes, because if you have people who are unafraid of you start murmuring behind the scenes. See, when they start whispering, it's one thing. Little innuendos, that's one thing. When they are openly murmuring against you, then eventually they begin openly speaking against you. Murmuring is when they start talking to other people about you. Speaking against you is when they start talking to your face about you. If people are allowed to murmur long enough, then eventually they come out the shadows. Remember, I've taught you all this now for going on 2 decades about the 5 steps to Nazi Germany. First, they murmur in their homes. Then secondly, they speak against you openly in the streets. And then thirdly, the press, which is the big national megaphone, starts to speak against you openly. Joe Biden last week, they began murmuring against him behind the scenes. Today, the first Democrat in Congress came out and openly said Biden needs to step down. So it's gone beyond murmuring behind the scenes. Now they're speaking against him openly. One has, but is that a crack in the dam, or is this the first crack before the dam gives way. Michelle Obama is not running. Michelle Obama can't win. Michelle Obama's a damn cancer. No, Michelle Obama is popular among Democrats. People remember the Obama years and not fondly. So if you think this is going to be a race about personality, it won't be. Fox News would be licking their chops at the prospect of Michelle Obama throwing her Dance the Dougie shoes into the ring. So no, Michelle Obama is only a little popular talking point among Democrats. It doesn't go anywhere else. Obama, how effective have Michelle and Barack Obama been for Joe Biden? Remember, he was behind in all the polls and losing even before the debate. People do not remember the Obama years nearly as fondly as Democrats in the media do. So forget about it. I wouldn't be surprised if another congressman said something, but the bottom line is they've been allowed to murmur. And if you're going to take down a president, murmuring campaigns are acidic and corrosive and ultimately destructive. They've been murmuring. And now some are speaking openly. But first of all, you have people murmuring against you behind the scenes, and then they're murmuring against you to donors. Well, think about that for a few moments, folks. The people here who are running for office, they're going to go talk to the folk that you get money from. So Joe Biden needs these big money donors to give the money to him, and yet you got folk, quote, behind the scenes telling the big money donors, you might want to hold off on that right now. You might want to hold some of them dollars right quick. This ain't a good bet for you. Now, why would you say that to somebody if you didn't have another option for them? And I submit to you that some of these folks saying that, they got their own ideas about what the next option should be. Folks, RFK, forget about it. The Democrat Party, he's got less support among Democrats than Bernie Sanders did. The party establishment is against him. That's the problem with RFK. The party establishment is against him. That's his problem. So that goes nowhere. Now, I wanted to tell you about how Joe Biden, folks are against him in the party, and they have been for some time. Remember in 2022, I was the lone voice. Nobody else said it. No one said it before me, and no one said it after. I was the person who told you all Biden was going to declare the pandemic over in 2022. I said that in 2021. That Biden was going to declare the pandemic over within a year in 2022. And I'm talking about the vaccine mandates and all that stuff. I say he's going to declare the pandemic over, and he's going to say that the vaccine mandates worked and all that stuff they did. That was it. Remember, I was the only person who said that. Nobody else said that. And Jason, how did you know that? Because it happened exactly what I said. And I said, because midterms. Because these mandates and all this stuff is very unpopular. Despite what the New York corporate media tries to tell you, this stuff is very unpopular. Biden and the Democrats can't survive if they keep pushing it. So in 2022, he's going to declare the pandemic over, tell everybody, okay, you can go back outside again, and then say, okay, vote for us. Vote for us. That's what they did. So, folks, this is power dynamics, is politics. I predicted it correctly because I'm like, hey, you're going into an election year, and this is a losing issue. Not going to work. And it happened exactly the way I said. Well, I'm telling you again right now, that was a bad look then. That wasn't good. But there's something else that's been worse. Joe Biden, as the president, has influence over the Fed, the Federal Reserve. And yet, Joe Biden's Federal Reserve chairman, going into an election year, chose to freeze interest rates at a record high. Damn! let me get this straight. So the president is already in trouble. People vote their pocketbooks. It's the economy, stupid. Your Federal Reserve chairman raised interest rates last year. Now, going into a crucial election year, your Federal Reserve chairman says, I'm leaving those interest rates where they are through the remainder of the year. So the price of gas, the price of groceries, the price of houses, the price of cars, he's just gonna leave it there. This is your Federal Reserve chairman, and he's just gonna leave it there. Now, that tells you something. That tells you something. I'm telling y'all right now, I'm like, okay, somebody in the party didn't like that. Somebody in the party, somebody in the system doesn't want Joe Biden to win, and they've thrown a monkey wrench into that. They threw a monkey wrench into that. Do y'all get that? Your Federal Reserve chairman sat up here and he's put those rates where they are at a time when you don't need it. He needs to be easing off the gas. Right now, he needs to be easing off that damn thing. He needs to be bringing those rates down. Even if it does start inflation a little bit, start easing off of it so that you're showing people that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And he's put his foot on, slammed his foot on the brake. I'm sorry, he slammed his foot on the gas. He's not even easing off the accelerator. He slammed his foot down. And what I'm telling you is, this is going to cause problems, man. This is problematic. Somebody in that party doesn't want him, whatever you call it, a shadow government or whatever. Yeah, somebody there is doing that. There's somebody there doing it. And I watched this for a while now. Why would you have a Federal Reserve chairman who raises interest rates going into an election year when everybody's screaming about the price of everything? No, there's a cabal, or at least there's a group within the system and the structure that does not want Joe Biden going back, and they've decided to put their little finger on the scale to help him out. And by out, I mean out of office. So what I'm telling you all is that there are sharks circling. The sharks are circling. It doesn't do Gavin Newsom any good to allow Joe Biden to have a second term. All that does is prep Kamala Harris. All that does is give Wes Moore more time to prepare himself. That's all that helping Joe Biden get reelected will do for Gavin Newsom or Wes Biden, or Wes Moore for that point. That's all it does. And by the way, there's a bunch of other little people. Gretchen Whitmer, I don't think she actually even wants to run. She certainly can't win. But there are other politicians in the Democrat Party who want to set themselves up. And the bottom line is, you can't do that if Joe Biden is a strong candidate going into in the re-election, because people will associate the problem with the party. If Biden loses, then you can submit to the American people that this is a reboot. That, hey, Biden and friends, they didn't get things done correctly. The American people made their choice and got them out the way. Hey, I'm not Biden, and you don't have to wait until 2028 to get that out of the gate. Remember, if Biden gets reelected, you can't really come out at him heavy. If Biden gets reelected, you're not going to be able to go into 2028 and come out at him heavy. If, however, Biden were to have an unfortunate accident on his way to the Oval Office and stumbles and falls and loses reelection, now you can start making a case for yourself from 2024 onward. You can start making a case for yourself there. Folks are worried, and they should be. Let me go ahead and take you over here to CBS. I want to show you what they're saying over here. Fair use to you too, by the way. I want to show you what they're saying over here, though, and it's rather ominous. Now, this is probably the newest thing that I've gotten so far tonight, but even still, it's not helpful.
We begin here with a critical meeting at this hour that could help determine the future of the 2024 election. President Joe Biden is with Democratic governors from across the country, including Governor J.B. Pritzker. CBS 2's Sabrina Franza joins us live with the key issue that's on the minds of voters. Sabrina.
Erica, that issue being mainly his age and his health. We're learning today that the president hasn't had a physical assessment since his annual physical back in February. The findings of that have not been made public. Experts telling us that releasing...
So the campaign now, do you all understand what the problem is, what I just told you? Folks sitting up here trying to get you focused on Donald Trump because they don't have a better argument. Your candidate, nobody's talking about his policies. They're talking about his health, not his policies. They're not talking about the last 4 years. They're talking about the next 4 years. That's where the conversation is today. Trying to be in denial of that is not changing the facts.
Since his annual physical back in February, the findings of that have not been made public. Experts telling us that releasing those findings could help alleviate some concerns of the people that the president is meeting with right now and with the public.
After days of criticism following last week's presidential debate, President Biden says he is not planning to drop out of the race for his re-election. At a Medal of Honor ceremony at the White House, the president posthumously presented medals to 2 Civil War heroes and said nothing about questions still swirling.
Oh, the construction of that sentence was horrific. President Biden posthumously issued medals. Oh, that was a horrific construction of that sentence, Miss CBS reporter.
Over his candidacy. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was...
Boy, do y'all take a look at her hair? Yeah, she proud to be black, ain't she? You take a look at her hair. I mean, so she's blonding it up. Is that what her white girlfriend told her to do? So, yeah, Karine Jean-Pierre, boy, I mean, she just looked lost. She was already weak before. It's just, okay, up under this bus, your ass go. So, yeah, I mean, take a look at that. Looks like a big blonde Swiffer.
Asked if he would step down.
Absolutely not. And you heard, I believe, directly from the campaign as well.
Adding the president was also jet-lagged from a trip he took days before the debate, which she says added to his fatigue and cold that day.
What? Lie. So the list of excuses is getting longer. First, it was he's got a cold. Second is preparation overload. Now it's, oh, by the way, he had jet lag. I mean, really? Whatever? I thought these were supposed to be career political operatives. What happened to quit while you're behind?
I would say I don't think it's a new excuse.
Lagged from a trip he...
And you heard, I believe, directly from the campaign as well.
Adding the president was also jet-lagged from a trip he took days before the debate, which she says added to his fatigue and cold that day.
I would say I don't think it's a new excuse. I think some of your colleagues reached out to us about the schedule. Some of your colleagues asked if the schedule was too strenuous.
A top aide for the president.
Folks, Karine Jean-Pierre just sat there and said, I don't think it's a new excuse. Okay, so we don't even have to tell you it's an excuse. Oh, by the way, this is something right here. You see the Marine pilot here from Marine One. The brother looked like he looking to the side of this Biden. He said, "Hey, did you just fall down?" Wait a minute. I thought I heard a clump or a knocking. Did Biden just fall down the stairs? Do I need to get up and help him? And that's the crazy part. Like the Marines, by Marine One and whatnot, they're supposed to salute the president and all this stuff right there. It's like if anything happens, they're not supposed to move. So I'm like, okay, if Biden fall on his face, they're supposed to just sit there and look at him, basically. They're not supposed to really move. But yeah, the brother piloting the plane, he's looking to the side like, hey, Biden, you ain't fell back there, did you? Do I need to come help you up? He didn't fall, did he? So, did he make it? He looks like he's looking to the side like, did he make it? He might not have made it back there. Is he all right? So, in any case, yeah. Now, Biden coming down the stairs, understand something. He's older than he's ever been. He's more rickety than he's ever been. And there's more scrutiny of every single move he makes. People, do you think that Joe Biden can afford another fall down another set of stairs between now and Election Day?
Nigga, please.
Think about that for a few moments, folks. You thought the pressure was on before. Do you think he can handle that his political career could take another spill down a flight of stairs or up a flight of stairs between now and Election Day? Can he have can he even drop a jar of jelly between now and Election Day? So he's coming down these stairs knowing that his entire political career is on the line. If he misses a step or anything happened coming down these stairs, that's wrap, that's curtains.
It was also jet lagged from a trip he took days before the debate, which she says added to his fatigue and cold that day.
I would say I don't think it's a new excuse. I think some of your colleagues reached out to us about the schedule. Some of your colleagues asked if the schedule was too strenuous.
A top aide for the president posted a comment on his behalf on social media platform X, saying, quote, "I am running. I'm the leader of the Democratic Party. No one is pushing me out."
Oh, only if they get a wheelchair.
After the Medal of Honor ceremony, President Biden entered a closed-door meeting with upwards of 20 Democratic governors. Governor J.B. Pritzker is one of them. He says he's still supporting.
Okay, so do you vote for the old senile dude or do you vote for the little fat one over here? This little butterball. Please. Come on, we learned that with Governor Christie in New Jersey. No, this fella, he needs to hit the bed and he needs to hit a treadmill.
Biden's reelection.
Yeah, I think that, again, he's our nominee. And so,
I mean, yeah, he looks like the picture of health, doesn't he? Okay, so you went from Joe Biden to this guy. You think you're going to get this guy in office? Yeah, he looks like the picture of health. Absolutely. What could possibly go wrong here? Somebody said Fred Flintstone. Man, look here. Okay. Said Fred Flintstone. Well, he's got a career in Hollywood. I'm like, yeah, this dude here, picture of health.
Unless he makes a different decision, I'm on board.
We asked an expert what he thinks is happening in that meeting.
And I think the governor's meeting today.
Oh, all these impossibly old, ill-looking people. What's going on, man?
Is really to shore up the campaign. He wants the governors to even more strongly announce their support of him and the ticket in the fall. And the governors are the primary surrogates in all of the major states.
Forget about it, man. It's like I say, behind the scenes, it's not going well. It's not looking good. Folks are asking questions they should not be asking. Karine Jean-Pierre is on the ropes. She's sitting up here talking about, well, it was, he was jet lagged, dude. Instead of her just stopping. That's the embarrassing part. It's like, okay, heifer, please. You think that's the thing to say? Well, he was kind of jet lagged, dude, when you think about it. He would. So they're not letting the matter go. They're not letting the matter go. Instead of him talking about his so-called track record, he's instead talking about his physical exam. They're talking about the annual exam now instead of his track record as president. As I told you all, this is going to be an election about going forward, not going backwards. Now, let's talk about Donald Trump for a moment here. The reason why this goes well for him is that Trump seems funny. He seems witty. Nothing says with it to people like witty. Also, instead of Trump being his usual dogmatic, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, he's making jokes. He's lightening the mood. It's easier to vote. It's a lot less stress. He's sure of himself, and then he's alleviating stress. So not only is he saying, hey, I'm the strong man, vote for me, but he's also sitting up here, alleviating it, and, he's being glib. So he's lightening the mood for people. That's being very, very accurately handled, no matter what you might think. It's being very, very accurately handled. So I'm holding tonight's program here to say, please don't be deceived. There is a very real possibility that Joe Biden is not going to make it to the convention. I mean, that they're going to try to pull him out before he can get to the convention. It is a very real possibility. Right now, the deck chairs on the Titanic are moving in that direction. It would be stupid, in my opinion. You don't really have anybody else who could actually put up a fight, not even speculatively. So it would just be a Hail Mary pass, but it's not smart politics. But I think here's the problem. Their fear may end up overcoming your solutions. So even if Joe Biden does come up with a solution, if the party is more afraid of what will happen in November than they are of what will happen in August, then he won't make it to November. Or at least you have to fight like hell. But I'm just letting you all know right now, the pressure is on. If he vomits all over him, if he talks to George Stephanopoulos and it simply looks like a repeat of what happened at that debate, game over. This is a scandal. This is a scandal. There was this pointy-headed dude named Lichtman, I think it is. Yeah, there's this Lichtman character who claims that he's properly or accurately predicted 9 out of 10, 9 of the last 10 presidential elections. And, he's don't listen to the polls, listen to me and my methodology about my keys. And I'm thinking that one of the things he's trying to say is that, is there a negative to be a scandal? Well, Joe Biden's got scandals too, but here's the real issue. If Lichtman is not counting this situation as a scandal, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. This has become a scandal. This has become scandalous. This becomes scandalous. Just keep that in mind. However, you might disagree. Therefore, the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. I've opened up the phone lines because I want to take calls from you all. If Biden is pulled from the race, who should replace him? Number one, can anybody replace him? And number two, what do you think? Who should replace him? So is Biden going to drop out of the race? Get pulled out of the race? Is Biden going to drop out and get pulled out? Or if he is, who do you think would be the best person to replace him? Who do you think that would be? I've opened up the telephone lines for you all to go ahead and to weigh in on that. I want to get your feedback on that. In the meantime here, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Mr. Waits, thank you very much for your support here. Stay positive. Thank you very much here as well. We appreciate that. Shout out here to Mr. Collington. Thank you as well. Mr. Copeland, and by the way, to everyone who has contributed to our crowdfunding here for 8 a.m., we have 6 days left. We still have time enough here, y'all. It's going to the first of the month. When you get finished sitting up here around the barbecue pit, you can go ahead and come on through. Want you to go ahead and do that as well. I'm convinced we can go ahead. We got time to go ahead and do that as well. We have over 5,000 people in here tonight. We have over 5,000 people in here tonight right now. So $20 from each of you all would supersede anything we've done. We still have time for that. I want to thank everyone who's contributed so far, but you still have time to get your name on there for producer. You still have time to get your name on this project. It's going to be the next big thing. You're certainly going to want to take advantage of that also. We're going to go ahead and go to the phone lines here right after this brief reminder.
We've grown up in a sea of white supremacy. I think that what slavery did for us is it created this sense that the white man's ice is colder and that we want to have a seat at that table and not a seat at our own table.
At LSU, we never had a conversation about the business of sports, about the money that's made. They don't want to have that conversation because you have that conversation, that's what creates movements.
Most people are miserable. They're depressed. They hate their life. Why do people hate their life? Because they're doing things they hate. Because they feel like they're scared they can't pay a bill.
George Soros probably said it the best, and he said that when he was broke, nobody listened to him, but when he broke the banks over in Europe, he was able to start talking to the heads of state.
Are you listening? Is this thing on? Let me tell you about the record industry. You walk into a major company, they got some of the prettiest women. You want some Perrier, you want some water. What do you need? Once they got you, it was just like that. What have you done for me lately?
A lot of those athletes in college, 99% of them will not make it to that high level NBA, WNBA, NFL.
If an artist is not a puppet, he's not going to be pulled to the top. It's the bottom line.
Friends is friends and business is business. Never intertwining.
Well, at least somebody's going to be winning in 2024 here, and you have the opportunity to join that just the same. I'm glad to have you all here to be a part of that. You still have time to weigh in on this, and there's no reason why we can't do that. We've always done this before, so there's no reason that we can't exceed everything we've done here. We still have a week for that. Folks usually wait until the last minute. So for those of you who've been waiting for the first of the month, you haven't tricked it off at Magic City, you haven't given it to Joe Biden and the Democrats, we can go ahead and send them a message here. So the link is in the description. My mods will also post that in the chat room for you here. So if you've been waiting, it's the last minute now, but it's time to go ahead and do that. We got 6 days left. Don't miss your chance to be on the train. The telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. We are discussing, is Biden going to drop out of the race? And if he does, who do you think should replace him? Let's go ahead and get to your phone calls over here. Let me get caller from area code 404. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is AW out of Atlanta, Georgia.
All right, AW out of Atlanta. What's on your mind?
First of all, I just want to say, Brother Jason, I've only been listening to you for, a few weeks, maybe less than a month, but you have completely changed my life and completely changed how I think about, our position in this political realm. Now, the question you asked, do I think Biden is going to drop out? I'm not sure. I think he should. I don't think he can go another 4 years, but, will the Democratic Party, who will they support? I think if anyone, it's got to be Gavin Newsom. I think he's the biggest name, and if you look at California, I don't know if it's the ideal state anyone would want to be living in, but at least for the party, he's their biggest name, and I think he would be the biggest person they could support.
Okay, so you think Newsom would be the biggest one? The real thing is, can he win? You can put anybody up there, but what do you think are his prospects of winning if he was given that position?
I don't think he's going to beat Trump if he's the nominee, but if they just wanted to put a face out there, I think he's probably their best option. But if it's between him and Biden, you might as well just keep Biden at that point.
Well, here's the issue. I mean, just throwing somebody out there, though, doesn't help. It doesn't help Newsom if he sits up here and runs against Trump and gets washed. Well, there went his political prospects. So I don't think it would serve him if you didn't have confidence that he could actually win. Because it's not just about putting somebody out there. It's about putting somebody out there who actually can win. And that's the problem with having an incumbent in office. When you have an incumbent, you're not really powering up anybody else to eclipse them. Because by definition, you don't want them to look weak, and that's the definition of making them look weak. So even if they want to do that, that's going to be a non-starter. But thank you very much for weighing in on that. Like I say, I mean, Newsom is out there, but if you don't actually think he can beat Trump, it's just, he can run. Oh, well, that's not encouraging. Let me get caller from area code 510. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Jay out of DeSoto, Texas.
All right, Jay out of DeSoto. And what do you think here? Is Biden going to drop out, and who should replace him?
Well, what it comes down to is that if you look at the Electoral College, there's really only 3 states that are competitive, and that's Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Like everybody else, no matter who you put up there, it's either going to go blue or red. So you pretty much need somebody that's popular in one of those 3 states. Trump won in beat Hillary because he won all 3 of them. And the Republican has to win all 3 of those states. So I think that you just need to find somebody that can get black folks to turn out in Milwaukee, Detroit, and Philadelphia. And that's pretty much the election right there. So I don't know who could do that, but that's the formula.
Well, I mean, definitely that would help. I think some of the math, though, may be a little bit daunting in that regard because there's other states that Trump, did well in and that you could that would come to his aid in that regard. So depending on what happens, maybe I'll do an analysis of what I did in 2016. I didn't really get to do it in 2020. Maybe I'll do it this year. I don't know. It just depends. But definitely, but here's the issue is that even if you take that math into account, who among the Democrats right now could do that?
Yeah, that's the problem. So Gavin Newsom did one thing that might help him is that he was the guy that pushed for letting black athletes do the whole NIL thing. So I think that if he kind of got out there and pushed that and be like, look, this is some economic empowerment for you, that might help him. But yeah, I don't see anybody else that I don't see anybody. I mean, folks rally behind Biden because really for Obama's sake. So and that's pretty much it. So I don't really see anybody that's going to get folks to turn out that.
There's my thing right there. Is that it's one thing to say, okay, these are the states you need to win, and these are the folks you need to turn out for it. But who is the candidate who can galvanize that? Well, we need the black vote to turn out in Milwaukee. Okay, Gavin Newsom is going to get them to do that. Gretchen Whitmer is going to get them to do that. Pritzker is going to get black folk to show up in Milwaukee or in Michigan. He's going to do it. They were sitting at home, but you gonna jump in there? Okay, well we'll go. I see that as a daunting task. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. Let me get caller from area code 469. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Thomas calling from Dallas, Texas.
All right, Thomas from Dallas. And is Biden gonna drop out of the race? And if he does, who's gonna replace him?
Jason, it's already over. It's already over. They have no one that can run against Trump right now. It's the equivalent of the Titanic sinking, and you thinking, are we still safe? No, you're not safe. It's just like you in the ring with Mike Tyson fighting, and you getting your ass beat, and you look in the audience and say, hey, anybody want to get in here? Nobody want to jump in that ring. You know what I mean? The time to pull Biden was last year. Like, This man was literally falling, going upstairs, falling, going downstairs, falling on stages. And we knew it. You were speaking about it, telling people, hey, man, something's wrong with this dude. And they knew something was wrong with that dude. So it's too late to pull him now because they have no one. They're not going to run they're not going to run the vice president because she's just as toxic as Biden is. So they played themselves all the way around. So Trump pretty much, he tap dancing his way to the White House. So it's funny to me because they thought that they still had the black vote when last year when black folks said, no, we're done. When you brought the immigrants over and you threw them in our face, you bent over and you told us to kiss your ass, we done. So they pretty much they might as well let Biden run now. Nobody's going to jump in that ring and try to go up against Trump. They're going to get beat up.
That's a hell of a spot to be in when your candidate just sat here and, spilled oatmeal all in the bed. That's a hell of a spot to be in. The real issue is this is the worst possible time. Political parties need at least a year to prep a proper candidate to fill in for somebody.
Right.
That's what the vice president's supposed to be for. But they spent the last 4 years weakening Kamala Harris to make sure that she would not be a viable replacement. Now you're in a situation, and remember, I just explained to you all that this is politics. So the other folks in the party, contrary to popular belief, they don't have any vested interest in keeping her a viable candidate either. If Gavin Newsom wants to run, he doesn't gain anything from aiding Kamala Harris. He loses. And so does anybody else. So if they want to run, it would be best to sit up here and go ahead and scuttle her now, or at least make sure she stays where she is if you have any plans on running, and other people do. Biden being as old as he was and everything else, everybody else saw that he's going to be weak, assuming he makes it to a second term, which was never in doubt. I don't have issues about his physical health, about him dying. The real thing is about this is not a good look, man. You don't look coherent. You don't look strong. And you waited until 120 days before the election to do this. 120 days before the election, and now you're doing this. We don't have time to replace you now.
Yeah, it's too late in the game. I mean, this guy, man. I mean, anybody that knows anything about dementia and stuff like that, it doesn't get better. One day you hear him, and the next day you missing in action. That's the way that goes. I mean, my mom had it. My people in my family had it, so I know how fast you can deteriorate with dementia and Alzheimer's. It goes quick. Person goes real fast, and they know it. They not fit to let Kamala Harris be president. They holding 2 hand grenades in their hand, man, and somebody done pulled the pin on both of them. Good luck.
Well, here's the thing, man. Biden wouldn't be in this bind if he had dealt with black folk properly in 2020. He thought the Latinos were going to come bail him out and whatever the hell else he was thinking. But then again, now I guess we know why he was thinking so many crazy things. But he thought that was going to happen. And that didn't occur. If he had been giving us some tangibles in 2020, when you throwing around them trillions of dollars, right, if we had gotten some tangibles then, dude, we'd have did what the hell we always do. It's like, I don't give a damn if that nigga thinks he's Charlie Brown. We voting for him again. And that's what it would have been. You wouldn't have to drag nothing out. We'd be like, we don't give a damn. Y'all let Reagan sit in that damn White House and play with a yo-yo for 4 damn years. Get out Biden case. He's already said, whatever he do, if this is how well he doing with dementia, let it roll on. And that's what it would be. But That's why other folk don't have a problem voting for him. Well, hell yeah, here, go chop the babies up and LGBT your way on out of here. Yeah, they're thrilled with what they're getting. We're not equally thrilled. So yeah, they don't care at this point. We got a different story. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 321. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason, this is Antoine from Orlando, Florida. I don't think he's going to leave because I feel like he's too arrogant to leave. Back into your point, you're absolutely correct about Kamala because I kept looking at the whole situation. And I'm like, okay, I see everyone in the Democratic Party saying, hey, Joe needs to leave, Joe needs to leave. Well, normally the vice president would step up. I don't hear no one saying in the media like, "Oh, let Kamala do it." So, but to your point, that's exactly why she was there. They're proven positive of what you were saying. It was her role. Gavin Newsom, I mean, that's not going to work unless he's talking about tangibles for us. That's the only way that's going to work, and I don't think that's going to happen. And also, if they pick somebody else, a lot of Democrats might feel a type of way because, you're supposed to elect them through the whole process. So they just get some random people that's appointed. So either way, they screw themselves.
You don't have time to prepare. That's just the biggest issue. You didn't do what you should have done in 2020 to shore up 2024. You've been acting like you're going to get some other constituency to replace us all this time, and then we're going to just fall in line at the last minute. They gambled too much. You gambled too much. Instead of getting this thing solid so you ain't got to gamble nothing, you walked in this whole damn thing gambling. And that's what I mean is that I think folks behind the scenes don't want him to win. Either because they realize that he can't really put together a political machine, and Kamala Harris certainly doesn't have one. And that, they're like, hey, screw 2028. Let's go ahead and scuttle this ship now. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that documentary that was done about Scott Hall. If you all remember the professional wrestler Scott Hall, he was Razor Ramon. And there was a documentary that was done, I don't know if it was by Vice or who it was, years ago. And, it was Scott and his substance abuse issues and things. And, I mean, this is one of the top guys from the WWE. And then here he is, drinking and drugging and everything else. And the point of that documentary was that there was this independent promotion, this independent wrestling promotion. And they had Scott Hall show up as one of their guests or whatever. And he shows up and he's stoned. He's completely intoxicated. This man, 6'4" and 300 pounds, they had to help him get to the ring. He can't even stand. He's so damn drunk or high or intoxicated. And they carried him out there anyway. The audience was booing. They were very unhappy. They were very upset. And the person running the documentary said, why did you do that? Why did you send Scott Hall out there knowing that he was in that condition? I mean, you're running a business. Why would you do that? The promoter was very upset because he had paid for Scott Hall to show up. Well, Scott Hall showed up, but obviously this was not going to be very appealing to people. And what the promoter said was, people wanted to see Scott Hall. Scott Hall knew he had a show to do, and people wanted to see Scott Hall. And I decided that people needed to see Scott Hall exactly the way he is. That people need to see him exactly the way he is, exactly who he is. So I'm saying that there's folks behind the scenes with the Democrats who have said, yeah, people need to see Joe Biden who he really is. And they need to see what's really going on. And that we don't have until 2028 to fix this. Because Kamala can't step in his shoes and there's nobody else really primed to do that. We don't have until 2028. If we're going to do something, we need to do it now. And we're just going to let people see it for what it really is. So they sent him out, scheduled 2 debates, knowing that he can't do well at either one, most likely. And that they decided, let's just go ahead and do this now. Is Joe Biden going to drop out of the race today? No. If he has another epic fumble, I don't see how you avoid it.
Yeah, he'll have no choice at that point. And to your point, when you talk about betting, I think they betted against that Trump would be in jail by now, me personally.
Yeah, which was just, if you have to rely on your opponents going to prison to win, that tells you how weak your party and your position is to begin with. Biden should be walking all over Trump right now. But the base of your party, which is black people, you done set up here and disrespected us for 4 years and figure we're going to respond like the Democrats. Joe Biden still thinks like a segregationist. And the problem is we are not the segregation generation. looking for his damn approval, and he's big white daddy on the porch, and all we want's a pat on the head. Jimbo Jangles Clyburn, that's him. That's not us. That was a horrible miscalculation on their part, that we are just younger versions of the civil rights generation, still bowing and scraping and looking for a white daddy to suck up to. That has been a horrific miscalculation on their part, living willfully in denial, going to HBCUs with gutless, feckless, glad-handing ass kissers looking for a political job, and ignoring the rest of us as if the ass kissers at the HBCUs are representative of the rest of us, and they are not, and they're about to find it out the hard way. Caller from area code 810, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason, this is that guy McFly. I'm calling from Michigan.
All right, that guy McFly from where at in Michigan?
Flint.
All right, in Flint, Michigan, and what's on your mind?
Well, it's funny to see the Democratic Party trying to scramble from Biden as if he's the sole issue. Now, this confusion, this indecision that you're seeing with the presidential campaign, we've been seeing this for the last 4 years of his administration. When he first got elected, remember the Build Back Better? There was provisions for the people in the infrastructure, and people within their own party stopped that from passing. You had Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema. Joe was like de facto president for a few months. Nobody in the party was able to will them in. That means somebody's asleep at the wheel.
Well, let me ask you a question here. Let me ask you a question. You say you live in Flint, Michigan. How long have you lived there?
Well, I was born here, then I moved away, and then I moved back within the last 10 years.
Okay, well, you've been there through the water crisis up there. So, by the way, how's that worked out? Did we ever get the pipes replaced and everything?
No. But they built a lot of schools. Somehow, all the money that was supposed to be given to the people, we still haven't received a dime. But they have built the Genesee area school. So kids who wasn't even affected by the water, hell, even those kids who were affected by the water, they got to be graduating high school by now.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah, that's where the money went.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris became president, and this is really an issue that Obama was responsible for, by the way. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris become president.
And we have a Democratic governor.
And neither your governor nor your president, we still got the same damn situation in Flint. They have not come through there and redone that yet. Not yet.
Yeah, we have a Democratic governor.
Well, hold on
here.
a second. I say 4 years later, but it's actually a decade later, and that still hasn't been addressed yet. Y'all supposed to show up and vote for what? What did they give you the vote for?
Yeah. And we have a Democratic governor here who's doing the same thing to the black residents in Kalamazoo, which there's hardly any black residents, but somehow in the one black community on the west side of the state, they put some pollution machine factory over there, and it's supposed to have an 800 hotline that you could call and make complaints to the states, but people say they don't answer. Flint was going through being polluted, and that's under a Democratic governor.
And Joe Biden has had 4 years as president. We sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, Afghanistan. At the very least, if he had done this, made that a priority, then at least he would have something he could hang his hat on and say, hey, we actually fixed something. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. They fixing the damn water in Ukraine and the water in Afghanistan. They're fixing the water over there. And meanwhile, Flint, Michigan is still sitting the way it was. Caller from area code 517, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Ariel, and I'm also calling from Michigan.
All right, Ariel, from where at in Michigan?
Lansing, Michigan.
Okay, well, from Lansing. All right, and what's on your mind?
I just want to say, as far as Biden, I don't think that he's going to drop out. Also, just to let you know, I'm only 25, so I'm not that politically conscious, but I can let you know, like, as far as what I've seen from, like, my friends in my age group, nobody's voting for Biden. Everybody is either voting for Trump or not voting. I think the only thing that they can do, if they want the vote, is to put in probably Robert Kennedy or Colonel West. I think Colonel West, honestly. I feel like the only way they'd get the vote is Colonel West, but I don't think they would ever try to put him up for the Democratic Party. As far as the Gavin Newsom, I don't even know him, so I know nobody else knows him. Like, I'm speaking on, like, just a basic, not really politically conscious person, and that's mainly most of America, like, as far as the black community. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Well, let me go ahead and let me ask you a few questions here. You say you're 25 years old. Do you have any children?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Are you married?
No.
Okay. What about Kamala Harris? You didn't say anything about her.
I don't like her. From what I've seen, I don't like her. I've seen what she said about reparations, about I'm not doing anything just for black people. Something with some hot sauce. Just like things like, I don't like things like that. It just seems like she's a black face. I mean, it just seems super obvious that they just got a black woman to put her up front so that we would like her. But
so ski weed didn't work. Ski weed didn't work for you.
No, none of that. I don't like all. I think that people think that the black community, we just want the hip hop, like we just want all that extra stuff. I don't like that. It's so obvious. It's so even to the like politically ignorant person, like the average. I'm an average black girl, like for real, and even that's annoying to me. I don't like that. It's obvious. Like I will vote for Trump just to spite the Democrat Party at this point, even though I don't really like Trump either. But
well,
it's just,
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Folks keep talking about RFK, and you know, in the internet age, a lot of these folks who don't have the support of a major political party, and there's only two, they really step up their internet game. Whereas the internet is more of a supplement to the big two parties. So RFK does reasonably well on the internet, but then again, every election cycle, there's some outlier candidate now who they do well online. They have a following online, so they're real good for doing that, but not for getting much further. So you named RFK. Interesting. Can you tell me the three policy positions of RFK that you would agree with?
Policy-wise, no, just what he's talked about as far as the war industrial complex. I know he did talk about reparations. I know that he wasn't for cash reparations, which I didn't, of course, agree with.
Then he's not for reparations.
Right.
So my point of bringing that up, though, is that, people mention RFK, and then when you ask about policy positions, I think for young people especially, there's always some candidate who appeals to young people, and that's cool because you all are getting involved. It certainly shows what resonates with you, and I think that political parties are very short-sighted if they don't take stock of that, hey, she's not out here talking about give me my abortions. There's some other stuff that they're interested in, and if you are not being cognizant of the landscape changing, and you're just telling me, well, we ain't going to do nothing for you but help you with the abortions, ultimately you leave yourself vulnerable. RFK hasn't really, I think if people listen, he's shown up on the Breakfast Club or whatever. He's good for getting around the internet because he doesn't get major backing. But beyond that, the problem is most of you all, you can name him because you saw him on YouTube, but you can't actually tell us what a policy position is. And what I'm saying is, and that's what people vote for as president. So RFK is more well known than any other any other third party candidate, but people don't even know what they're voting for as far as he's concerned. So being an insurgent and a rebel plays well on YouTube, but it doesn't actually constitute a political campaign. It's his job to get the message out there. Now, let me ask you two questions, just in case you're wondering what that means. Let me give you a brief example. You're 25 years old. Let's get this through your head now. All right. Tell me the two things that Joe Biden is promising to do if he becomes president.
I have no idea. I know the student loan forgiveness, which I think is actually he hasn't been talking.
No, that's
about
fine. He's talking about student loans. That's okay. All right, student loans. What else?
Oh, okay. And I thought it was the migrants, but I heard that he was closing the border.
Okay,
So
well, we'll give
really
you that
know
one. We'll give you that one there. Student loans for all the hoes and migrants for all the illegals. All right, illegal aliens, got it. Okay, with Donald Trump, what are the two things that he wants to do as president?
The thing, I'll tell you what sticks out, what's being put out that I just hear about is the Project 2025, of course.
Okay,
And,
now is that no,
abortion
you say Project 2025? Now is that something that Trump has said or something?
I don't know. That's
okay.
just what
There you go. Okay, so I'm asking about what the candidates are saying they want to do. So, what are two things that Trump said he wants to do if he's elected?
The only thing that I've seen, I can only give you one, is that with abortion rights, leaving that up to the states, letting the states figure out exactly what they're going to do with abortion rights, as far as like the term, like how far along you are before you can no longer get abortion.
Okay, and anything else?
Nope.
Okay, she doesn't pay attention to politics very well. This is the only problem with younger people is you all need to pay a lot more attention because you'll catch on the flashy people and you may end up voting for them and not even really realizing what you're voting for. You mentioned Joe Biden and the illegals. Donald Trump is the guy who said build that wall.
Right. Well, with me personally, I wouldn't vote for either of them. If I was to vote for somebody, it would be Cornel West, and the only reason for him is because I know he's.
I'll come back to Cornel West here in just a moment, but I'm saying that because I want you to be introspective here. It's not good. You're not. It's not a benefit to us if you're voting for people and don't know why you are. It's also not beneficial if you're not voting for people and don't know why you're not, other than, well, they're a bastard. That's not good enough. So if you don't know that's why I was asking you, tell me what their positions are. And what I'm saying is if you're not fully informed of what their positions are, then you don't know why you're saying no, other than I feel a certain way. So that's why I said, yeah, I know RFK shows up on YouTube and stuff like that, had a very strong internet game in that regard. And that's very good for getting attention. But did you notice what you didn't get? You didn't actually get anything from him. You can't actually name a single policy that he is offering. Not a single one. But she said, hey, RFK. And so what I'm saying is that's a triumph of marketing. You all saw something, but you can't tell me what the benefit is. Now, let's go to Dr. West. Tell me 3 of Dr. West's policy positions that you are, since you say that he would be the candidate you want to support, give me 3 platform positions that he has that you support.
I can only give you 2 as far as the military, as far as basically bringing the military back. And
bringing the military back.
Bringing
the military back. I don't know what that means.
Like out of other countries, like pulling, like out of Iraq, out of other countries, pulling them back to America and starting an open dialogue with other countries. To me, that makes sense.
Okay. So what she thinks is that Dr. West is going to adopt a more isolationist position and bring back the military from all of these overseas adventures that we've been on for over a century now, which has built the United States into the mega power that it is. Because money is not enough. You need money and guns. If you're going to run the world, you have to have money and you have to have guns. And you can't have them in America.
Yeah.
All right, but that's one.
But
all
it
right,
doesn't seem like we're really giving money.
Well, don't worry. We'll come back to that. But
seems like
that was the first one. What's the other one you want?
And the reparations for Black Americans.
Okay. Now
cash payments.
Dr. West has insisted on cash payments. When, ma'am?
Multiple times on for what I've seen as far as his debate.
Okay, folks. So that's what I'm saying, folks. This is the guy she's supporting, and she is sitting here telling you, well, I'm adamant. Well, Dr. West supports cash payments, and what I'm saying is, no, she's assuming he said that. And so that trick bag language that they use, because this is what you all have to understand. These folks are treating y'all like lawyers. They're using trick bag language deliberately intended to deceive you so that you heard a sentence and you assume that he's saying cash payments because he knows that's... Slow down. Slow down.
Mm-hmm.
No. I think what you mean to say is he has referenced it. I think that's what you mean to say. Remember, you're 25.
No.
You don't think of it like a record deal, young lady. I'm educating you. Think about it like signing a record deal contract, okay? Their job is to use language that implies to you because they know that this is what you really want, but they are either not in favor of it or they don't think they can deliver on it. So they use language intended to leave you with the impression, well, see, they clearly support that. But you know what? I'll go a little bit further with you. Can you go and Google right quick where Professor West said that? Said that he wants reparations as cash payments.
Yes, he said it with the Candace Owens interview. He said that was the Breakfast Club or the Candace Owens debate.
Yikes.
They said, what was the first thing that you would do if you got in office? And he said, cash payments, reparations for Black Americans. And that was the very first thing that he said when they said, what's the first thing that you would do for Black Americans? And he did say cash payments, reparations for Black Americans.
Okay, ma'am.
And that was the first thing he said he'd do in office.
Dr. West has at best vacillated on that. At best. But he has also made it clear that, by the way, he's going to be very iffy on that because his definition of reparations is for all poor and disaffected people. So do you see where the issue there would be?
Yes.
So like I say, I'm very
based on that interview.
I'm very doubtful.
Pretty specific to
I'm very doubtful that it was said like that because he's got a pretty long track record. I'm very doubtful that it was said like that.
Well, okay, I'll tell you how it said. They said, what is the first thing you would do? He said, reparations for Black Americans. And they said, and what does that look like to you? And he said, cash payments.
Okay.
And then we can get into the land and other things later.
The only person who has said that sentence you just said is me. I'm the only person who has said that sentence. That the issue is reparations. Well, how do you define reparations? Y'all remember Sonny Hostin? Jason Black's the only person who said that. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not really sure that you I'm not really sure that you heard that correctly. I'm not really sure you did.
You would have to go watch it because I'm positive that's what he said.
Yeah, because
it was either the Breakfast Club.
The only person who has said that statement just like that is me. Just me. But by the way, Dr. West's record on this is pretty long and extensive. And if you've been following him, then you already know that he's already said that, yeah, we need to do something for Black folk and everybody else. Poor whites, Asians, Latinos. So did you miss that part that he's been saying now for 20 years, and particularly the last 2 presidential cycles? That, by the way, that's what
I know that he wants to help everybody as far as the poor people, and he especially wants to help Native Americans as well. But I do know for a fact that he was talking about reparations for Black Americans, cash payments.
Okay, did he give an amount?
No, the only person I've heard him talk about amounts is Tariq Nasheed. But I've never heard him talk about amounts. No.
Well, if you're not listening to my program, we mentioned amounts here too. I just did a few days ago. But the issue here is that, by the way, is somebody offering reparations if they're not even mentioning the amount. So they say, oh, cash payments. Okay, well, how much? $10,000. Okay. You see what I mean? So I recommend you all go back and check those again. I'm almost certain it's the usual trick bag language in that regard. At best and at worst, it's going to be a poor people's program. Because that's the only thing that Cornel West has ever truly promoted is a poor people's program. Not a black one.
Yeah, I know that he was, I don't know. I feel like it's changed, especially since he's no longer with Bernie Sanders, because I know he was pushing that, especially with Bernie Sanders. But I do feel like he's still for poor people. Don't get me wrong, especially because he's definitely a humanitarian. But
right, so that's what I'm saying. You might want to go and update your files on that. I'm pretty sure he didn't say what you think he said. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Like I say, they're young. They're not paying attention. They're dazzled by the internet. They're not actually understanding what they're hearing. They're hearing a sentence constructed in a very deceptive way. They're remembering what they want to remember. She heard me saying that, and she's, I heard Cornel West say that. Ma'am, you heard me say it, so I don't know. Maybe they don't want to give me credit for it or whatever, which is fine by me. But I'm just saying, by the way, if you heard me say it and you're imprinting that on Cornel West, now you're going to have false expectations of Cornel West. So you have to make sure that you're up to code on that. You have to make sure you're correct on that. But all of us who've been following Cornel West now for 15, 20 years, we all know why. We understand. We've been seeing him do that little trick bag language for 20 years. It always comes to his poor people's campaign. And then it's, reparations, I think great idea. Okay. And it sounds great right up until you get into the details. Right up until you start asking for details, and then you realize, this is the same damn thing you've been saying. So you have to be informed so that you're not sitting there fooling yourself, because young people tend to look for alternatives the way that people tend to look for alternative clothing. Oh, I don't like that designer over there. I don't like that car over there. I want my own unique style. So they end up gravitating to candidates and treating it more like tennis shoes or a fashion style of the year. They want to be rebellious, or I want to go with something different, as opposed to, hey, let me sit and listen to what your policy actually is and make sure you're not throwing in trick bag language and get some details. And the internet is a hotbed for individuals who know how to appeal to you in a TikTok video in 60 seconds. And then in the process, you're assuming all kinds of things, and in reality, they didn't actually say anything. Caller from area code 301, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from area code 301, you're on live. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, sir. This is Derek calling from Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, Gary from Baltimore. And what's on your mind?
Yeah, so in my opinion, I believe that Joe Biden has to run. He cannot back out, because if he does, it's going to set up Kamala to have to take charge. So pretty much, if Kamala is not the leader of the Democratic Party moving forward, it's going to split the voting base. So the black women who believe she's black and who voted for her because she was black and went to an HBCU and an AKA and all these different things, they cannot have her be replaced by a white man, because that's going to fracture that voting populace. Not to mention the white women who actually do like Kamala, they would take that as an affront and be offended that they will replace her with a white man and not at least give a woman of any race a chance. But I don't see a white woman replacing her, because there is no real bench for the Democrats. So Biden has to run. He has to take the L. He got to take this ass kicking, because he's going to get his ass kicked. This is a fact. But in the end, Biden's just going to have to take his L, take his lumps. And as far as the Democrat bench, with Wes Moore, Gavin Newsom, and with Kamala and or Gretchen Whitmer, those are really the only four people that actually have a chance moving forward into 2028. But there is no bench that the Democrats have. And honestly, the Republicans have the same problem. There is no bench for the Republicans. There's Trump and there's nobody else. So it's in the Democrats' best interest if Trump wins, in my opinion. That way he's out of the way. He can't run no more than twice. I mean, he'll be there for 8 years.
If Trump were not here, most likely the Republicans would have had to consolidate behind Ron DeSantis, even though he's about as popular as a rattlesnake outside of Florida. But they've got other options. It'll take time to get that together. Marco Rubio was probably their best option, although I don't know if they're smart enough to go for that. Let me go ahead and deal with what you just said there, though, about Kamala Harris and Kamala Harris's so-called supporters. First of all, Kamala Harris's supporters are the vote blue no matter who people. The sister girl crowd. Kamala Harris is a bimbo, and she appeals to the black bimbo constituency. So the chicks with their ski-wee and all this nonsense. So these are the black bimbos. The folks who can sit up here and get on MSNBC, these are the black bimbos. They couldn't be a blonde Barbie bimbo. So they went and got a degree because they don't really have any real sex appeal. And she appeals to the black bimbos. They're going to vote for, they would support her no matter what. Here's the problem. They didn't know who Kamala Harris was until the Democrats brought them to her 4 years ago. They voted for her only because the Democrats brought her. They will switch her out and they will forget that she even existed, and they will take whoever is put in her place. So it will immediately go from support Kamala to support Zaddy. Because that's the way bimbos operate. They vote blue no matter who. Integrity. Integrity is not required. Not for supporters of Kamala Harris. By definition, they've shown you that, because these would be the same women sitting up here talking about black men chasing white women. And meanwhile, take a look at Kamala Harris's life. So the bottom line is integrity is not required. It's a bimbo sect. Their sister girl in it only because she was the light-skinned chick allowed to come kick it with the white folk. As soon as she loses her in, she's lost her usefulness and her appeal. Case in point, these women who support Kamala Harris, allegedly, cannot name one part of Kamala Harris's life that they identify with outside of that ridiculous sorority. Name one part of her personal life that they themselves can identify with.
I agree, and I have found myself in, because I have quite a few cousins that are AKAs, and they're very sensitive about this, but she stands for nothing. She has no backbone. She's literally like the Scarecrow or the Tin Man on Wizard and the Oz. She's literally empty. She's an empty vessel. Similar to Joe Biden, for that matter. I mean, they're just empty vessels.
Right, but my point is, though, that she doesn't. Is Trump. My point is that Michelle Obama, for example, Michelle Obama had to give Barack Obama his black credentials because he didn't have any. So that was why early on they chose them, because they're both lawyers. So she knows how to argue for herself. They understood Barack Obama has only dated one black woman in his whole life, and then he married her. Everybody else was white, Asian, or whatever. There's a number of white women before Michelle. So he's not somebody involved in black society, period, point blank, in the discussion. Michelle Obama was not just his beard. She was also his black credentials. And by that, I mean, remember, we don't just talk about Michelle. Remember, Michelle kept talking about her daddy. And hardworking black man, this, that, and the other. So Barack Obama couldn't talk about his father and his experiences with his father. And he couldn't really talk about his experiences with his mother, because none of those are rooted in black society. Michelle, however, could. And that's the Achilles tendon for Kamala Harris. She can't talk about her black upbringing because she didn't have one. She can't talk about her experiences in black society because she doesn't have any. She is an Asian female, an Indian female. She didn't really get involved with black folk until she had to go to an HBCU. But everything before that is just this big, giant void. There's nothing there that she can lean on and say, this is my upbringing among black people. If it were there, the only thing she ever mentioned was that damn thing being in a stroller talking about freedom, and we all don't think that's a real story, and sister girling it with her biological sister, I think it is, and that's it. But she's not really talking about us. She's talking about herself. Michelle Obama can talk about her upbringing as a black woman, her black parents, her black neighborhood, and she gave Barack Obama credentials by association, even though these were her experiences and not his. Kamala don't even have that. She can't even march out Doug and say, hey, let's talk about your black experiences. She doesn't even have a spouse that she can rely on to do that. And that's the problem. So everybody's supporting her. You can't really say you're supporting her from a black perspective of being black. You can really only say, hey, I'm supporting her because the party brought her here. But if I drill into you and ask you, okay, tell me what about your life that you identify with her, you can't name any one or two things that are the same in her life and yours, her upbringing and yours, her experience and yours, her family and yours. She's an alien. And for that reason, there isn't any real, true support for her among sister girl society. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. She's just the black chick or light-skinned chick who was accepted by the white corporation. They want her job, they want her money, but they don't want her life. Caller from area code 203, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, how you doing? Jafar from Connecticut.
All right, Jafar, from where at in Connecticut?
New Haven.
Okay, brother, you have a lot of background noise going on there, so I don't know if you're at the car wash with everybody else right now, but there's a lot of background noise going on.
No, I'm sorry. That was my air conditioner. Now, what I was going to say is I think Joe Biden's going to have to run. I don't think there's nobody else he could put in. And as far as myself, I'm voting for Trump. I think Trump's going to win, and that's it. I don't think they got nobody else they could put in there. I mean, who else they going to put in there? That guy from California, that state got what, a $90 million or billion, one of them, deficit. Like, come on, man. Like, black people, in my opinion, would be crazy to vote for Joe Biden. Like, he's disrespected us. Asians had one bad month in American history. They get a crime bill. You see what they're doing for the Hispanic immigrants. What do we get? We ain't getting nothing. Like, nothing. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 646. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Anthony from Queens, New York.
All right, Anthony from Queens. And what do you think? Is Biden going to drop out, and who's going to replace him?
If we're thinking logically, if the Democrats are thinking logically, what they would do is they would beg Michelle Obama to run. You know, get get the black vote. You know, there's going to be Negroes. I'm not going to vote. I wouldn't vote for her, but there's going to be Negroes that are going to coalesce. You know, they're going to get excited again, and they're going to vote Democrat. If the Democrats think strategically, they would let Kamala Harris run. Why? Because you kill two birds with one stone. She's going to get run over by Trump, and she becomes not viable anymore. So she can't run in 2028. You get her out of the way, Ski-Wee, and all those idiots that are going to go vote for her, you know, they're gone. They can't complain. They can't say, why you're not letting Kamala run. You let her run now. You let her get her ass whooped, and then you wipe the slate clean. So that's what I think.
Well, here's the issue. Michelle Obama's not viable either. She's not a politician. She's never held office. She's the spouse of a president, and that was it. Hillary Clinton at least won a political seat first and proved she could actually win something. Barack Obama proved he actually win something. Michelle Obama is only viable if you're looking at polls. And remember, polls are a popularity contest. They're a snapshot in history in a popularity contest. The problem with it is no poll is taking into account how well Michelle Obama does under scrutiny. She has never actually been scrutinized before. Never. So, yeah, she's popular among Democrats, but then again, you'd expect that. But for the electorate at large, including undecideds and independents, has she ever actually been, what about her politically has been questioned? What are the hard questions that Michelle Obama has had to have asked and addressed of herself? You see what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's absolutely true. But again, they know the black vote is gone. So, anyone, I think.
Yeah,
Michelle
but she was
Obama,
instrumental in losing it. So that's what I'm saying. If you're looking at polls, and there are some polls that indicate she's ahead of Trump, but then again, there's others who say she isn't. But if you're only going on that, but as far as her black appeal, remember, she's part of the reason that we all stopped supporting him. She's part of that reason. And even under the best case scenario, she would have to be wildly popular in that regard. It's not like the black vote's been sitting around just waiting for her. And she'd have to give you something to vote for. And 4 months is plenty of time for that luster, the bloom to come off of that rose really quickly there. So as far as the black vote is concerned, I would suggest that she is not nearly as popular as the political punditry wants to believe she is. I think they want to believe she's popular so that they can say, well, we got somebody in the party who still appeals. But once again, I submit to you, if she was really that influential, why was Joe Biden already behind before now? She'd been out there stomping for him.
That is true. That is true. I was just throwing it out there because, really there's no one that's going to get the black vote again, except what I thought was her, So that's how I look at it.
Somebody in the chat room made an interesting statement there. Michelle Obama's kids are grown. Well, Barack and Michelle Obama had the kids together. But by the way, has anybody seen how the kids turned out? Is she gonna
degenerates now?
Well, I'm just saying, well, take a look at their choices in men. So if we're talking about the black vote, Michelle can't even take pictures of their kids anymore. She's gonna have to hide Sasha and Malayla, whatever their name is, under a damn blanket. Pardon the expression. She can't even show her kids anymore. So there went her black credentials. There went that.
Yeah, that's true.
Bad spot to be in. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. I think folks, especially in politics, grossly overestimate her abilities. They wax nostalgic when they talk about Michelle Obama, but in reality, there wasn't a whole lot to brag about. And if she comes under scrutiny, I think you're going to see those numbers plummet relatively quickly. Caller from area code 704. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, my name is Wendell from Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, Wendell from Charlotte. What's on your mind?
This is my first time calling, so please don't scrutinize me too tough now. But what I'm saying is they have to stick with Biden because it's not like the election is 2 years off or 2.5 years off. It's 4 months off. They got to stick with the bumbling guy who can't answer questions, because that's who we brought to the party, and like they say, you got to dance with the one you brought to the party. So we got to dance with him, even though he got 2 left feet, but you still got to dance with him. See, I changed down there in North Carolina, in Charlotte anyway, they call it unaffiliated when you go independent, when you don't want to be Democrat, Republican, they call it unaffiliated. So I've been unaffiliated for about 8 years, 9 years or something, because I didn't see too much of anything out of any one of these parties. And down, North Carolina, where you got the majority of the people running stuff is Republicans, but the Democrats get more votes, but the Republicans don't finagle stuff so badly that they run everything. That's how the whole country's going to be. I don't see how nobody say they're going to vote for Trump, even though he's telling you what he's going to do. That's one thing about Trump. He tells you what he's going to do. Biden tells you what he's going to do, and then the first day he gets in office, he backtracks. So,
well,
that's
let's take a look at
that. Enthusiastic about him.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at that here. All right, what are the problems with Biden dropping out at this point? I went into this before, but I want to go into it again here. First of all, you have several issues with him wanting to back out, because the whole point of having these presidential campaigns is that people want to make sure that these things are locked in so that when it's time for the most important vote in the country, they've pretty much dotted their I's and crossed all their T's. And basically, it's like sending a wire transfer that you've committed to this decision well in advance, because that's one of the things that helps prevent tampering. Well, what's the problem here? Number one, Joe Biden, we had a primary in the States. That's not symbolic. The primaries are not symbolic. You have chosen your candidate for the Democratic Party.
Exactly.
All you're doing at the convention is basically sending the delegates to go ratify that. The delegates cannot go in there and say, yeah, y'all told me vote for Biden, but I've had a change of heart. It doesn't work that way. You can't do that. Next order of business, you've got your... Okay, well, slow down. Okay, slow down. I'm explaining something here. Just soak this up so you understand what happened. The first issue is you already had your primaries. Those were votes. Those are binding. That wasn't symbolic. We weren't just bored. That means something. So now they're going to the conventions where they just ratify those things. That's the first issue. You've already voted for him. So for the convention to do a bait and switch, that's not going to happen. You can't do that. Second thing that you can't do, remember, in many states, you can't change it once you've done it. So now that he's on the ballot there, in many states, you can't change it even if the person dies. You can't change it. A lot of folks don't know that.
Before also.
Okay, a lot of folks don't know that. You heard it from me. Nobody wants to give me credit for anything. I heard it from somebody else. You heard it from me.
I heard that before. I don't know if it was on your program or not, but I heard that if the person dies,
nigga, please. All right. In any case, In any case, y'all, they hate me to hate me. This is all right. But in any case, you can't just yank people off the ballot. That's not the way that works. Last but not least, next is money. Joe Biden is the one who's raised all the money. It is illegal. This money was contributed to and for Joe Biden, unless you gave it to a PAC. But if you gave it to the Biden campaign, that's it. That money is committed to him. He can't
he can't transfer the money
cannot
to
just
anybody
hand
else.
it over to Gavin Newsom or somebody else. That would be illegal. He cannot, not he doesn't want to do it, you can't do it. So if you put in Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, or anybody else, they're going to have to start from zero. By themselves, on their own. They got to start from zero at the political level, the social level, and the financial level. And they have 120 days. That's not a very optimistic scenario for anybody. You've already gone so far down the road with Biden. You are basically committed physically if you're not emotionally going to commit to it. You can jump if you want to, but you're going to be sentencing whoever you replace him with to starting over from zero. That's what you're going to do.
But that's where the craziness comes from, this politics thing, especially from the Democrats. He have a crazy debate, which everybody knew that was going to happen. Then the first thing they do is start coming out with different stories like, oh, insiders are saying that he's this, he's impossible, he's this, he's that. Oh, come on. Y'all could have said that 3 years ago, and you can't replace him. So why even come out with these stories?
Because
just let it ride.
Jill Biden
if you lose, you lose.
Jill Biden and her son had too much riding on this. So Joe Biden's family wouldn't allow it to be walked backwards once he got in. So I think what happened was Joe Biden baited and switched them. He probably gave them the idea that he was only going to run for once, and then that would give them 4 years of breathing room to prepare somebody else. But then once he got into office, he made it clear, on second thought, I'm sticking around. And now the rest of the party has kind of been handcuffed to the decision. And now that it's been exposed that he's all the reasons they didn't want him to run twice, you're too far down the road now.
Because he had been.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get a call, area code 213. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's up, Jason? My name is Juno. I'm calling from Baltimore.
Okay, Juno from Baltimore. And what do you think? Is Biden going to drop out, and who's going to replace him?
Actually, I don't think he's going to drop out, and I hope he doesn't.
Okay.
Because I want Trump to win.
Okay, well.
And the reason I want Trump to win has nothing to do with whether or not I like them. I hate them all. If you want to be honest, I think they all hate us. They've shown it for hundreds of years. However, Trump is such a threat, not because he advocates for black people, although he is the only person I've heard on record say that black people did build the United States. So I have to credit him that, even if he was pandering. But with these Supreme Court decisions that are coming down, he is dismantling the administrative state. And that, by proxy, benefits black people because we are the ones who are most affected by that. Whenever we go into a courtroom, they tell us the Constitution doesn't apply to us. They interpret laws as they see fit because that is the power under the Chevron doctrine or the Chevron deference that was granted to the administrative state. They can make up the rules as they want to. So this restoration of the Constitution, even though admittedly, when this country was founded, it didn't have us in mind. I think right now we are in such a position where those things ancillarily benefit us.
Well, okay. Well, let me address that then, because let me give you all the real objection to the indirect benefits, disproportionately benefits argument. Are there things, is everything going to necessarily directly benefit us as black people? Well, no, mathematically speaking, no. Other folk get things that they get direct benefits from to make sure they get things. But here's the other flaw with it. And I want you to think this over. When you say we get indirect benefits. It disproportionately helps us. It is an indirect benefit to us. Even if you're absolutely right in what you're saying, have you also considered, though, that the problem is, making those changes, now you're talking about dismantling the administrative state, that would make changes that benefits black folk. Well, maybe you're right. But have you also considered that if it benefits us, it indirectly, then it's probably also indirectly benefiting other people much more than it benefits us?
Well, I mean, that's a fair observation, and I just think that
wait, no,
being in America.
Okay, but slow down. I want you to let that marinate for a moment. If what you're doing, you've tilted the scale back, okay, it's going to indirectly benefit us. Yes, but it's like whack-a-mole. Yeah, it's indirectly benefiting you, but it's indirectly benefiting other people to a higher degree, which then offsets whatever benefit you thought you were going to get. You see how that works?
Okay.
There's the other issue with it doing like that right there. And I understand, and you're correct. That is politics. It's never always on your side necessarily, unless you're the dominant society. It's never always on your side. But I want folks to think about that for a few moments. Even if you make the argument about indirect benefits, it's indirectly benefiting other people. But the problem we've always had is that, it always indirectly benefits other people much more than us, which in Kamala Harris is, I can't just do nothing for black folk and the rising tide lifts all boats. The problem with that is everybody else has got a bigger boat and a higher tide. That's the problem. So our tide got bigger, but you gave them 5 times as much tide with 10 times of a bigger boat. And that's the indirect benefit that they received. Whereas if we have something specifically concentrating on us, it makes sure that that neutralizes that offsetting effect. So I get what you're saying. It's a real thing. It is valid. You are correct. But there's sides to those things in that regard. And I think ultimately that's the part to keep in mind. If you're now that there's a bunch of wacky things that shouldn't be there. Like, for example, qualified immunity. There is no qualified immunity law. That's just a judicial doctrine. And it's the courts shouldn't be out there making laws, which is what qualified immunity is. Also, Chevron. So when you hear these doctrines, these are not laws. These are practices of the court, and that should be illegal. The court is supposed to be there to interpret law, not to create it and say, well, Congress, there's an absence of law. Well, if there's an absence of law, then you just say, hey, we don't rule on this. And that's it. That's the way you're supposed to handle that. Well, they're not doing that. They're instead stepping in and doing things on their own. So there's where the problem comes from in that regard. I don't have a problem with, laws necessarily, depending doctrines from the court, because that could swing one way or the other. And so I see how this could go badly, with the EPA. I see how this could go badly with the Labor Department. I see how this could go badly in a number of different areas. You don't necessarily want bureaucrats somewhere making laws or decisions. No, you don't want that at all, to be totally honest. But remember, there's a trade-off for that, because corporations have lobbyists. Those lobbyists ain't waiting for an election day. They get direct access to the politicians themselves. This is a power dynamic. Mm-hmm. What do we have that balances that out in between elections? Well, if you do have some bureaucrats who are specifically predisposed toward you, that kind of balances that out. But if you're about to lose that, well, there goes that too.
Right. Which brings me to my other point, and I'm glad that you just said what you said, because, okay, so we've been in this country some for hundreds of years. Some of us, even longer, because there were indigenous peoples here that looked like us, right? During the time that we've been here, we've seen periods, obviously, since the inception of long genocides, right? What I don't think people are really taking into account is the times that we're in with respect to this. There are people who are in control of the government who immigrated here from communist regimes, mainly the Bolsheviks. These people are mass murderers, and they were never brought to heel for their crimes. These people are largely made up of the Israeli lobby. So I guess what I'm saying is, in the pursuit of our own individual interests, which we should. We are old reparations. Anybody telling us that we shouldn't get it is somebody that is not our friend. I just feel like right now, though, something is really happening where we are in real danger. I'm talking flash genocide danger. Because
well, certainly, I think in Biden's case, I think it serves us best where the Democrats are concerned, since whether we like it or not, black people have historically supported them wholeheartedly. I think my reason where the benefit is anybody but Joe is it sends a clear message to the Democratic Party that you cannot take the black vote for granted. And we're the only reason you can win. And that we really will do this, and we really will abandon you, and we really will leave you alone. Now, there is one negative bad side to Trump winning. Though the media will try to spin it as Biden could have won if he wasn't in dementia or something like that. He could have won. And then this is why I told everybody, don't expect them to change after this election cycle. They're going to blame us. Then now after the debates, they're going to go explaining that, Biden, there was nothing wrong. He was just in bad health. But there was nothing wrong. So they're going to come back and try to run it again in 2028 to see if we change our tunes between now and then. But if Biden did not fumble at this debate, they would have been on election day. They would be coming back and blaming us wholeheartedly because they didn't have another excuse. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Like I say, the only thing this debate has done is given them a little bit of cover to sit up here and say, it's not the black vote that did it. Biden's declining mental health did that. So that's the excuse that they'll give, but it's not true. It's not true. Not at all. So that's what I'm telling you all. We're going to have to wait for that to come back around. We're going to have to wait for that to come back around in 2028 because they know what the truth is and they don't want to have to concede that that's what it is. So they'll come back in 2028 and be like, okay, have y'all forgotten about that? Oh, look, we got Wes Moore over here. So you let that direct tangible benefits thing go? Did you let that go yet? So mark my words, that's what they'll be doing. Oh, now they will send, depending on what the black vote does, because here's how it turns bad for them. I got to give you all the inside analysis you'll receive absolutely nowhere else. Here's where it goes bad for them. If Joe Biden does not have another disaster between now and election day, all the never Trumpers and Roland Martin and the rest of the black bootlicks are going to be telling the rest of us that we need to fall in line. And if we refuse to do that, even after they've told us to do that, the Democrats will be sending them out to come lecture us and wag their fingers at us and tell us that we messed up. That's what they're going to do. So mark my words, when he loses, the Democrats are going to try to pretend the black vote didn't exist while at the same time sending out their old black media bootlicks to sit up here and criticize us and tell us that we're the reason that Biden lost if the black vote numbers drop. Caller America code 510, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Hey, Jason.
Okay, the caller is currently being mugged. Please call for assistance somewhere, brother. I hope you live through it. Caller America 843, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
DBA Tobias out of Phoenix.
Well, there's a name we hadn't heard in a little bit.
Yeah, man. But to answer your question, I think Biden's going to stay in the race because no one else wants to take the hit. And you know, you lose this way, you ruin your political career. But that was something that when you play that black lady earlier, it gets me thinking. And I think black pundits, they miss it. Voting for president in a political office is not voting for homecoming king and queen. Maybe instead of saying fall in line, asking why these people don't want to vote for their guy. Because if Joe Biden did anything for black people, or at minimum advocated for black people, we wouldn't care this man will follow downstairs every 5 minutes. We would vote for him. But since he ignored and his party keep ignoring the black vote, what is there to stick with you when you're supposedly not at your best?
Yeah, that's a bad situation to be in. But what you say, it's not voting for homecoming king and queen. For them, it is. I mean, this is the ski-wee crowd. all they can do is be cheerleaders, and they're all just really fighting and competing for their ability to be the cheerleader of the day on MSNBC or CNN. They don't have any real scruples. They don't have any real principles. They don't have any real character. They go wherever White Zaddy tells them to. That's where they go. That's what they do. And that's all they've ever done. And where's the punishment mechanism for it? So, and they're used to losing. There's the other thing, is that they're used to losing. And if nothing else, they'll be glad if Trump wins, because it gives them something to complain about for 4 years. They're used to being powerless. Yeah. They're used to being irrelevant. And if nothing else, it just gives them something new to talk about at their HBCU luncheons.
Yeah, and one thing also, they always talk about, well, you vote for this third party here. That's a vote for Trump. Who's to say that person was going to vote for Hillary Clinton in the first place? Instead of knocking people, saying why they vote for this other person, not for a candidate, why not address why they're not voting for that candidate and look at it that way? Because you remember this, right? We're around the same age. I remember as a kid, they tried to paint Marion Barry as his drug addict and stuff. They tried to lock him up and all this stuff. Well, he did stuff for black people. Guess what? They voted for him anyway. And I just think that the Democrats trying to get Trump locked up, we know he'll never spend a day in prison, actually backfired because it galvanized his base, in my opinion. And instead of worrying about the issues here where folks, number one at McDonald's costs probably $15 depending where you live. Housing is crazy right now. Everything has gone up. And you worry about locking this guy up. What they miss, Jason, is these guys are like the Republicans like the Saturday morning cartoon villain. They kept plotting. Democrats take stuff for granted every time. They taking black folks for granted. And it's biting them in the butt right now. And it's like they won't see it. They know that we're the ones that put them in office. And they're realizing a lot of black people just gonna let it burn. Hey, you don't address us, so be it. In our case, when it comes to black people, it doesn't matter who's in office if they're not addressing our issues. Because if a Democrat doesn't address our issue, Jason, or doesn't advocate for us, what makes them any better than the Republicans? When you see other groups getting advocacy and policy and finance.
Well, like I say, they're going to try to hold out as long as they can. The Republicans, here's the problem for them. The problem for the Republicans is right now if they get complacent. If they start telling themselves, okay, we're on the road to easy street, then they're in trouble. They still have a long race ahead of them. You're assuming the debate issue is eventually going to start to wane if Biden keeps making appearances and doesn't have another disaster. That's a lot to bet on because that's a long time to go for a guy who doesn't seem to be able to make it a couple of weeks without something crazy happening. But if he does make it between now and Election Day and doesn't have another disaster, if Donald Trump has not made the case for himself, people will backslide. They will. So the Republican Party cannot afford to get complacent. Right now, they need to see this as a godsend. And Trump needs to be the most conciliatory person he can be and appeal to every damn body he can. And certainly where black folk are concerned, he certainly needs to be doing that. But other than that, yeah, I think the biggest danger for them right now is getting complacent and thinking, okay, basically we get to cruise to the White House. And that is far from reality.
Yeah. And I got one question, and I'll take it off the air because I know you got other people. People keep talking about Kamala Harris, but once she crashed faster than a Hindenburg because she ran out of money super quickly that she couldn't even rally money up? No. And so what would be the point of her running?
She ran out of support, Tobias. She ran out of support just from the very beginning. Focus group testing and everything else. Lily Adams, I covered all this. I mean, she ran out of support. And her people have been telling her the same thing all the time. When she actually walked out there, it's like, you don't actually have any black credentials. And you're assuming that you're going to have some black solidarity. And she grossly miscalculated. She horrendously miscalculated what actually was going to occur. She thought that she was going to be able to count on some black credentials. and that she could BS her way through it. And it didn't happen. And what happened was, remember, support dries up for you before money does. There's always going to be some little old lady out there somewhere throwing you $25. Support dries up for you before anything else. Well, Jason, what do you mean by support? Tobias, name a political rally she could show up for if there'd be more than 20 people. Just on her name alone.
Yeah.
Just on her name alone.
Okay.
So there's the issue. If she holds a rally, who's showing up for her? These things she's on, these so-called economic forums and whatnot, they show everything except the damn audience. That's why she had to go with Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is the draw. If Kamala Harris shows up by herself, it's going to look like a cemetery. And which was the problem before. And when she had her opportunity to make her case to us, see, this is what shows you that these people are so feckless and they're such pathological liars that they even lie to themselves. Tobias, if Kamala Harris had been intelligent in 2019 or 2018, she would have recognized what the new black media was saying, and she would have dealt with that. Not coming out and figuring, well, I'm some highfalutin lawyer from California. I'll talk rings around these niggas. I know how to do that. And she found out, no, you're not nearly as smart as you tell yourself. That was a problem. It was a problem then, and she should have dealt with that then. She should have leaned into it in 2018 and addressed it. So that by the time we get to 2019, it's not as big of an issue. So she had that she had that gaping wound there, and she just tried to ignore it as if the media was going to save her. She didn't have the black credentials, and rather than ignore what we were saying, she should have been directly confronting it. That's what she should have been doing. But there's a problem with that. Well, Jason, you just said that would be the answer, but now you're saying there's a problem with that? Well, yes. What's the problem? She doesn't know how. Kamala Harris doesn't know how to address black issues. She doesn't know how to address black people. She thinks we're owed 20 acres and a mule. No, I played the damn video clip. She literally said, it's on my YouTube channel right now. She literally said 20 acres and a mule. Literally. This was just a couple weeks ago. Literally said black people were owed 20 acres and a mule. Can you find the woman who has a white husband in this picture? Things like that. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. And the one thing you said about preparation, folks got to remember Barack Obama spoke. He gave the address at the Democratic convention with John Kerry was running, so he was getting prepped 4 years earlier. You're supposed to always prep the next candidate because you never know your number's called. You could be 55 years old and drop dead. Have a stroke or something, or anything.
It's a free for all.
But their failure to prepare is going to lose them this office, and they may lose more seats in the House and Senate because these people, because they're going to negatively campaign against them, sticking with Biden, and folks may down ballot. So taking black people for granted and not preparing may bite them in the end. But be one, Jason. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, Tobias. We appreciate that. Hadn't heard from Tobias in a minute there, but glad to hear from him. Yeah, like I say, definitely they don't get it. They don't get it because it's not convenient for them to get it. For those of you who are new around these parts and you hadn't heard it before, let me go ahead and get this up for you here at the Black Channel. This is Kamala Harris speaking at a Black Economic Forum here just a couple of weeks ago. Read them and cringe.
Best ways that we achieve intergenerational wealth. We also know that it is one of the many issues where we have seen incredible obstacles for black families. We don't even need to go as far back as nobody got the 20 acres and a mule. All of the burning and home ownership is one of the best ways that we achieve intergenerational wealth. We also know that it is one of the many issues where we have seen incredible obstacles for black families. We don't even need to go as far back as nobody got the 20 acres and a mule.
Yeah, you ain't gonna make it. Yeah, well, why don't we nominate Kamala? Why come Kamala can't win? We talked to Roland Martin. Yeah, she ain't gonna make it. Her gag reel runs itself. Caller America 229, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
What's going on, Brother Jason? My name is Brother Ray, and I'm calling you out of Valdosta, Georgia. How you doing tonight?
All right, Ray out of Valdosta, and what's on your mind, brother? Is Biden going to run? And if he isn't, who's going to replace him?
This is me thinking like the Democrats. If he does decide to not run, I think the only person I could really think that could be a viable option would be Pete Buttigieg. But I'm probably saying his name wrong. Because, obviously Trump and, Biden is a lot older. He's in his 80s. And I think Pete is like in his early 40s, like around 42. So, maybe he can appeal to the younger voters. He's the current Secretary of Transportation. So maybe, he could have he brings a mix of like the executive and administrative experience. They could work the angle that, he served in the Navy because he was a naval officer. He served in Afghanistan. He has a degree from Harvard, and he went to Oxford on a Rhodes Scholarship. Obviously, with him being, LGBT, that's something they could definitely use, to pull in the gay vote. As far as the black vote, which I don't agree with this, but, he was talking about the Douglas Plan and criminal justice reform, health care, and, education opportunities for the black community. Obviously, and the last thing is, he's from the Midwest, so, he could potentially, help, get some votes from that swing state. And before I land, brother, I just got a question for you. Who do you think, and it's just obviously hypothetical, do you think Trump would pick for VP? Because he's been very quiet about that, because I've been hearing rumors that Tucker Carlson could potentially be his on that ticket with him.
No, I don't know who said that. Somebody was pulling your leg clean off your hip bone. So, no, Tucker Carlson is not running for anything anywhere. He's an heir to the Swanson food family. Hell, he can't even really put up his own postings online in a regular fashion. So, no, Tucker Carlson isn't interested. He's not, number one, he's not qualified. Number two, he's not interested. So, I don't know who said that to you all, but no. Ben Carson isn't going. The only person who would, I'm just saying, I'm going to be considered the only person who would make sense is Marco Rubio. He makes sense. Tim Scott doesn't make sense. Tim Scott doesn't play. Tim Scott is a Trump ass kisser. And while Trump might consider that to be pleasing to have a little imp, the only problem is that Tim doesn't bring any new votes. That's the problem. Tim simply is a redux of what you already have. Tim is also aggravating and galvanizing. So he would double the damn threat. Marco Rubio would do exactly the opposite. He's articulate. He's everything that Trump needs that Trump isn't. He's not, reactionary. He's not this gunslinging radical. He's Latino. He's more personable and more friendly. He can speak with young people on the internet. So in my opinion, he's really the only one. No, Nikki Haley. Everybody that Trump had to beat up during the campaign, I think has been very clear, yeah, that's not going to happen for you. If Trump had to kick your ass to get to the nomination, you're not coming. Because then Trump would have to admit that he was wrong about something. You see what I mean? So that, for the folks in the chat room talking about Nikki Haley and whatnot, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, you're not going, because then Trump would be required to swallow his ego and say that you were not as bad. It's just no, if Trump had to say that you're a disaster, no, he stands by that stuff. So he would deliberately just go get somebody else. So the smart decision would be Rubio, although I doubt that would be the case. I don't think Trump is gonna want to go with a woman. I don't think he will want to do that anyway, because he would see that as too much as like trying to replicate Biden, and he would want to prove he doesn't have to do that. No, not Vivek Ramaswamy. No, people. No. Look, all the conservative right-wing YouTube catnip, just like RFK only really plays on YouTube and on the internet, Vivek only played on the YouTube and internet. So you have some rich bomb thrower who can say crazy stuff and get views on YouTube. Yeah, but YouTube, as Dave Chappelle said, Twitter is not the real world, and that doesn't fly. So no, Vivek is not anybody's running mate, classmate, paper mate. No. I see it as a bad situation and not a whole lot of options there to be had. So it's beyond that. If Trump would be smart to get somebody like Rubio, that would be the smart idea. I don't think it's going to be a woman. I think he's going to go in left field. I think he's going to grab somebody else. I think he's going to grab somebody out of left field, someone who.
Greg Abbott.
No, Greg Abbott. No, you got to wheel him around. No, no offense to the wheeling thing. It's just that Trump is already old enough. You don't want to have an infirm looking ticket. No, I think somebody like a Chris Kobach. I think Trump is going to want to go younger. I think Trump is going to want to go with somebody younger. He doesn't want to have an ass kisser. He wants to have a protege. Like the Emperor in Star Wars. That's a hell of a damn comparison to make, by the way. But I think he's gonna want somebody significantly younger. And he's gonna want somebody who is more of an apostle and, a student that he can groom. Who's somebody who can't wait to please him. Tulsi Gabbard, that would be interesting, but Tulsi is not in office. And Tulsi didn't do so well when she was there. And I think there are too many questions surrounding her. I think that Trump is very worried. Whoever he chooses, he's going to value allegiance first and foremost. Trump is going to value somebody who's going to have allegiance to him, so that he doesn't have a repeat of Mike Pence. So Mike Pence was
Margaret Taylor.
Well, no, he would be stupid if he did, but I'll explain that for a different reason. Mike Pence was a smart choice because he was an establishment conservative who you knew without question could handle himself during that vice presidential debate. He knew all the issues, he knew all the policy stuff, and he was part of the Republican establishment. So that was the bone that Trump threw to them by choosing that, and it was perfect. It balanced it out. Trump could be the right-wing bomb thrower. Mike Pence is the traditional low-key conservative who wouldn't do anything radical. This is a guy right here who, doesn't even take his tea hot. So it balanced it out was what it did. And it was brilliant and it worked great. Trump is not, but the problem is Mike Pence did not have allegiance to Trump. He had allegiance to Mitch McConnell. So long before we ever got to January 6th, Mike Pence was a Republican, not a Trumper. And Trump realizes the real peril of having people around you who value the party over the candidate. Especially when Trump has to keep throwing elbows at the party. He's gonna want someone who has allegiance to him. And I don't think the old dudes have allegiance to him. I think he's gonna have to choose somebody who's younger and more idealistic. Somebody who can be his apprentice. Literally. Like from his TV show. I think he's gonna skew for that. So an establishment conservative, not so much. I think he's gonna want to go for somebody who's well known, but is not an establishment conservative because he does not trust them. Furthermore, nor should he. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene is certainly an avid supporter, she is. But remember, in the world of Donald Trump, the more of a cheerleader you are for him, the less he likes you. Did you all notice that? Whether it was on the Apprentice TV show or anything else, Donald Trump doesn't like ass kissers. He wants supporters. He wants devotees. He doesn't really want ass kissers. So that puts Marjorie Taylor Greene in a difficult position. You can't suck up to him because he doesn't trust ass kissers. He trusts power. By the same token, you also can't afford to not be supportive enough. But that becomes a problem for you too, because you see, Marjorie is ambitious. And do you really want to give firepower to somebody under you who is so openly, blatantly, nakedly ambitious? Do you really want to do that? And I submit to you, he'd be sitting there watching his back the whole damn time, because Marjorie is a person who has no problem knifing whoever she's supposed to be working under. She's proven that she has no problem knifing you in the back. She has no problem speaking against you publicly. Something that Mike Pence would never do. Something that Marco Rubio would never do. Marjorie is as much of a loose cannon as Trump is. And what I'm saying is, yeah, she's wildly enthusiastic. Emphasis on the wild, not the enthusiastic. So she would be very perilous to trust. Tim Scott isn't really helpful. He's a helpful bootleg, but he brings nothing to the table other than yes, boss. And Trump is looking for somebody who can empower him. Mike Pence empowered him among Republicans. No, Rand Paul's not an option either. He's not interested. Rand Paul is safe where he is. He's not interested. Anyway, brother, I'll let you have the last word.
No, excellent program. I can't wait for the new documentary, brother. B1.
B1, brother, thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Also, I want to thank everyone who has contributed here tonight. Thank you all very much for your support on 8 a.m. We have a ways to go here. We're at 900 backers. We've got thousands of people listening here right now. Most folks usually wait until the last minute here. If we could have 2,000 people here, we had 1,100 more backers on this. For all the folks who are sitting on the sidelines, by the way, that would outdo everything that we've ever done here. We got time to do that. We still have another week to be able to work on that. Let me get caller from area code 347. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Peace to the Black Authority. Peace to the Black Media Experience. Anthony from Brooklyn.
All right, Anthony from Brooklyn. What's on your mind?
I'd like to make 2 points and then leave with a question, and I'll listen off it. Jason, the Democrats are all in for the policies that they started during this administration. Joe Biden has been reading from a teleprompter for 3.5 years. And you know what? The State Department, the CIA, and the war machine would have it no other way. They're going to do everything they can do to get Biden, at least give him the appearance that he's awake. I mean, this would be like Weekend at Bernie's. They'd drag him. They're willing to drag him by the right leg down the streets of Washington, back to the White House if necessary, half dead or dead, because that's right now they are all in, and they need somebody who can just do somebody that can just prop up. We're gonna prop you up because we're running things. If anybody, what last week showed us is, if you didn't know already, everybody should have known if you've been paying attention. He's not making the decisions. And those 3 entities I just mentioned, those are the ones that are making the decisions. We see that the governors met with him today. Those 3 entities were in the room making the decisions. And, that's all. That's one part. The other thing I want to say, well, I'll just ask this question. He has an interview coming up with George Stinkonopoulos. And I want to ask you this. If we think back to when Trump and Hillary ran, Roland Martin, and CNN said this, Roland Martin gave Donna Brazile the questions, and she gave them to Hillary Clinton, so she already knew some of the questions that were going to be asked during the debate. There's no bigger Democratic shill than George Stephanopoulos for the Democrats. Do you think this interview, and it's only going to be 15 minutes, do you think it's going to be on the up and up?
It doesn't matter.
I don't think it's going to be on the up and up.
It doesn't matter if it's not a live interview. It won't work.
I agree.
So this is going to what they're trying to do now, and this only makes it more glaring. What the problem is, all of these curated events, Biden in front of a teleprompter or Biden in an edited interview is going to be it doesn't help you. Neither of those. These campaign stops will not help him because he's on the teleprompter. So if the only time he can be coherent is if you have a teleprompter telling him what to say, that doesn't encourage people's confidence. There's the issue. So this interview, George Stephanopoulos, I guess, is taking one for the team, but if it's just a regular if it's just a regular recorded interview, it doesn't work. 15 minutes, probably not going to do very much to help you either. I don't know if it'll be 15 minutes. It might, who knows? I don't think they'll give much time to it. Can you keep Joe conscious long enough? So, I mean, he needs to come back out and make an appearance. He's trying to do this blitzkrieg right now. But the problem is, unless he gets in front of a podium and starts taking questions at random, that's not going to assuage people's fears. It's not.
I agree. And their major, one of their problems also, see what they're trying to do? See, they know, people who are thinking, they know that last election, Trump got 74 million. They know that his 74 million, the number's going to be around that this time. So if they sit Joe down, they're like, who can we fool the people with? Because, see, they got to make it look good. Who can we fool the people with to come up, to let them think that they're going to come up with 80 million or somewhere around that number? And we know they didn't get 80 million last time. You know, so that's another thing. I want to say one thing. I don't know if you kind of, I don't want to say you misspoke, but what will happen is, because the ticket registered with the Federal Election Campaign, they actually, the money will actually go to Kamala, but it won't go to anybody else. That's why part of what they try to do is get her to get out of the way too. So if they tried to go Newsom or somebody else, but they would have to go, that's the dilemma they're in, because if they sit Joe down, it's Kamala. The money has to go to Kamala.
I mean, the point is, it would be for the Joe Biden campaign. You can't switch it.
Right, exactly.
You can't switch it to another candidate. And my point is, no, sir, I don't think that would work either. I think that's very contestable because Kamala Harris is not the presidential candidate. She's the vice president. She's on the ticket. The people contributing, this is for Joe Biden's campaign. This is not for Kamala Harris's campaign. So no, I don't think you can do that either. I think you can try that, but no, I don't think you can actually make that work either. I think that's waiting to be contested. So no, you gave this to Joe, and he's going to be the horse you ran with, even if he's a dog. And you know, these are things you have to think about beforehand. You can't sit up here and come off the top of the dome with this. You can't do that. You have to know what the hell you're doing to begin with. That's why we have presidential races years in advance. So by the time we get to this point, you're supposed to be focused like a laser beam on just making your case for the general election, not trying to figure out who the hell's still going to be running. And you're coming up on, here's the problem right now is that right now, this is the time where voters become engaged. You know, the previous couple of years, they're not really engaged like that. Now, coming up into the election, this is where the time period where people are, quote, paying attention. That's the point of this. This is the time period when people are supposed to be paying attention and when you most want them to be paying attention. And now you're saying, I hope nobody's watching. No, they just started tuning in. They just started paying attention. You went through a bunch of trouble to get them to watch the debate, and they did. I'm just saying we're too far along now to tell people, I hope you're not paying attention. Whoa, you don't get to put the toothpaste back in the tube. We're too far along.
But you know what? Last day, they hope and pray that we're not paying attention because they know we haven't paid, for the most part, we haven't paid attention the whole year. This is why, you know, in political circles, Joe Biden, he lies so much, he's known as Pinocchio Joe. But it's not just him, it's the whole administration. Kirby last summer, gets up and says that from his perch, he didn't see any chaos when the troops withdrew from Afghanistan. I mean, you had people on the wing in the landing gear. How could you say that?
Brother, you haven't hitched.
Lincoln lies more than anybody.
You haven't hitched a ride on the airplane on the wing. You haven't done that. You're one of those little timid people who stays inside the plane. You ain't never just grabbed onto the wheel at the bottom for dear life and just here we go. You kind of weak, brother. That's what we call Soul Airlines, not Spirit Airlines. This is Soul Airlines. Yeah, what are you talking about? Y'all never jumped in an airplane holding onto the wings? Yes, sir. First class, $1,500. Coach, $200. Outside on the wing, $50. Assuming you can hold on. Yes, sir. We call this Biden Air. Nobody makes it to their destination. Call America 412. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, Jason. My name is Robert. I'm calling from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Biden will not drop, but maybe politically forced to resign. But due to political law, he cannot drop out or be removed. A more broader war will keep him in office. The government have done this as well as the corporations. The Democrats can put anyone in place of Biden. Kamala Harris gave counterfeit black credentials to Biden. My concern is the continued political ignorance of Negroes who vote as an extension of mental memory. Look at Kamala Harris's record. Professor Black Truth, if I may, he did a documentary on her crimes, and I think you did too. And it's classic. He exposed all of her crimes. Biden, but to answer your question on your program tonight, people, your very existence is in the balance. Don't forget what she has done against black people. And it's simply egregious. Right now, black people should be vengeful for what political parties have done to us. And we need to almost act on that, because if you support almost anybody blindly, then you're just putting nails in your own coffin.
Well, I think at this point right now, that's why I was saying to the young 25-year-old woman who called in and whatnot, that was very, very important that you not just be able to rattle off names. The internet's very good for people promoting themselves. But if you just get wrapped up in personalities and not policy, you make a very good point. They don't know what they're actually voting for. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller Miracle 617. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi there, Jason. It's Mike from Beckett.
All right, Mike from Beckett, Massachusetts. What's on your mind, Mike?
Another great program, and a couple of points. I love the question of Trump's running mate. I think you identified the perfect candidate as Ivanka for him, so maybe that'll happen.
No. You're looking for an apprentice. So, Senator Vance from Ohio. I mean, he's a possibility of all the people that they're talking about. He would be a possibility. I don't think Tim Scott, he doesn't move the needle. I mean, you want a person who seems like they have their own mind. Tim Scott does not have his own mind. He doesn't have his own brain.
But I'm saying his daughter, Ivanka.
No, that's she. Number one, she doesn't have any political track record. She hasn't run for office, so she doesn't bring anything to the party. I mean, that would be polarizing. So, furthermore, he needs his family out of politics so he can put all the properties in their names, just in case anything happens to him. So, there are options out there, where he's concerned. There are options. If I'm just telling you all what I believe the profile of the person would be. Number one, he would want someone younger and fresh-faced. I think the last 2 years in particular have made him particularly sensitive to potential insurrectionists and potential rebels against him. So he's going to want folks who are 10 toes allegiance more than anything else. Allegiance, but not ass kissers, because you don't trust them. And somebody who he feels moves the needle for him, because he doesn't need to replicate himself. He needs somebody who brings the things he doesn't have. So that's kind of that's a lot of needles to thread. Somebody who brings the things you don't have, is assertive without being aggressive, because you're threatened by aggressive people. Even if they support you, he's threatened by them, and with good reason, by the way. The best possible people, he's already rubbed them wrong, competing against them. He had to elbow them out the way. I think if he does not, in my opinion, if he doesn't pick Rubio, I don't see how picking Gabbard moves the needle very much. I could be wrong on that, but she got run out of politics. She didn't even leave on her own. She got run out. So I think a lot of people here are naming Tulsi Gabbard because of the internet. And that's what I'm saying. Folks, this is not going to be won by people who got their popularity on the internet. That's not how this works. You all have heard about folks on the internet, but the people on the internet, Vivek Ramaswamy and the rest of them, are folks who've gotten popularity through the internet after the fact. You notice they can't win elections. Yeah, Tulsi got popular on the internet and then can't win an election. She can't win one for herself. How is she going to help him to win anything? So, no, not in the family or anything else. No, he's already had a falling out with Romney. None of the establishment conservatives, anybody who's been on the conservative side for 20 years or more, he doesn't trust any of them. He's going to want somebody who's been around for like a decade or so, somebody who has expressed they look up to him or whatever. That's what he's going to value. If he does pick a female, I'm thinking it's going to have to be a personable one. They don't really have one. So, Kari Lake, she didn't win her own election. She's helpful to a degree, but she hasn't demonstrated she can win. In politics, that matters. Tulsi Gabbard demonstrated she could win right before she loses. I don't think there is a list in there. I think it's going to be a white male. I think it's going to have to be a white male. And he's going to have to be somebody who has not run afoul of Trump and is going to just basically be a good cheerleader for Trump's policies. Because that's what he's going to value, is somebody who's not going to be talking against him in private. So if Rubio has spoken against him in private, then he's already done. But I don't think Trump's going to have, especially with folks trying to take him to court and things, I don't think he's going to have anybody around him that he can't have absolute confidence in. I don't think that's going to happen. And where the females are concerned, that might work out a little bit better, but I don't think there is a single female who has really stood out in this regard. Not unless he's going to have a turnaround with Nikki Haley, and that's not going to happen because of the situation in the Middle East. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller area code 512. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mr. Black, thanks for taking my call. This is Eric in Austin, Texas.
All right, Eric in Austin. And so is Biden going to drop out? And if so, who's going to replace him?
Well, I have a little different take. One thing that I've seen has always dwelled in white society, especially in power dynamics, is there's a phrase that says chaos is a ladder. And I feel like in this situation, there needs to be some type of chaos.
90 seconds.
Right? And chaos from a position of maybe, I think that it's going to have to be uncontrollable, whether he says Biden is not going to run, and then there's going to be a pressured situation to force a new face, because everybody that we've already seen, nobody likes, nobody supports. So you have
60
to create something brand new in order to create a chaotic situation, and then they're going to do it late in the game. So you're going to do a bunch of research, and then the whole Democratic Party is going to get on code behind this person, dropping a bunch of positive bites.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that. That works in their little bubble. Now let's take this to the general population. If the Democrats dump Biden, and that would be, he would have to leave of his own volition. For those of you who don't know how the 25th Amendment would work, his cabinet would have to pull him. That's very doubtful. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen if he doesn't want to go. Period. If he says, I ain't going, and you know how old folks get stubborn even when they're losing their minds, he's not going. So
10 seconds.
With that being the case, that's going to be very difficult. That's going to be extremely difficult. I don't think you can do that at this point. So, and that works within the party, but it's not going to work with the electorate, because all the electorate is going to see is a party in chaos, to which the average American will say, see you in 4 years. When you all finally get your act together and decide who's running this thing, I'll see you in 4 years.
Now, I feel like, we already know that there's conversations that are being had behind closed doors. Now, how is the Democratic Party going to be viewed going forward with everybody knowing that they're supporting a man that's clearly sick? So if you allow him, if you continually support him going in through this election, and you see that he's clearly sick and he gets trampled over by Trump, what does that do to the future of the Democratic Party and the leadership from their judgment standpoint?
Well, here's the thing. Like it or not, you saw the societal membrane alter with Bill Clinton. Before Bill Clinton, you couldn't be a serial womanizer and having sex with the damn interns in the White House. And you see how they were willing to overturn all of that to keep him in office. And now the people that are accepting of something that previously they were never would have been accepting of. And that was what happened there. Now, here you are 30 years later. Brother, do you really want to bet on the attention span of the average American today? Do you really want to bet on, in a world where we went from YouTube to Instagram Reels to TikTok, can we hold your attention for 30 seconds before you dismiss and forget everything that you saw 2 minutes ago? So I think it's a cynical calculation, but I think in politics today, they actually do depend on that. So I would never want to bet on the attention span of the American people if they are allowed to forget. If Biden keeps making a bunch of appearances and doesn't vomit over himself, see, the limited ones would not work unless he just piles on a bunch of them. So if he has a bunch of campaign stops, he's eventually going to have to get in front of an unscripted microphone somewhere. So if they limit the damn time frame for it and stuff, you know, and does the average American think as sophisticated as we do? Hey, he was only out there for 15 or 20 minutes, not for an hour and a half. And without another debate coming up, and if he foregoes that. So I think with the people have demonstrated as their attention span, I don't think I would put a lot of faith that they're going to have long-term memory if Biden puts out a bunch of new stuff to bury it under. Do not be surprised if the modern audience turns out to be the modern audience. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah. Well, one thing that's going around, and I don't know if you've seen it, is there's a video that people are showing where they showed him, Joe Biden specifically, they showed Joe Biden debating in the last election, and then they showed him talking now, and he looks like a totally different person. Now, it's comical, but it's true at the same time. And when you look at that, and they start driving that point around, from that to show his decline from the last election to now, people see he cannot make it another 4 years. There's got to be a chaotic situation to happen in order to force people's hand to bring up, when things happen, they start bringing up laws and things that nobody even existed. Well, this article code back and this and that enables this and that. And I think that in order to rejuvenate the situation and really spring something up against Trump, you have to bring something new to pique people's interest and bring it late in the game. So
I don't think you
can.
I don't think you can do anything new right now. People don't want to see anything new. People want to be reassured that they're in good hands and that they're in steady hands. And right now, you throw everything in upheaval. And you're think of this right now, like it or not, Joe Biden has been the parent now for the last 4 years. Now you're going to bring in a step parent. You're going to dump him and bring in a stepdad in 4 months. I think that if they did do that, you're going to have the stepfather effect. And he doesn't have enough time to ingratiate himself to the kids. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. You wouldn't have time enough to ingratiate yourself to the kids. You don't have enough time. They're going to be looking at you side eye and it's going to be like, okay, or worse. Now, here's a factor I don't think you all might have considered. Or worse. What if you knock Biden off and people in the party blame you for it? Who wants to be the one to play Brutus to his Julius Caesar? Who wants to be the one to say, yeah, I had to step in because he was... Who wants to take that crown? Especially if you go up against Trump and you lose. Who wants to take that crown? Because everybody's going to blame you. They're going to say, if you hadn't been so eager to run, you couldn't win no damn way. Remember, if Biden stays in and loses, they're going to say we should have replaced him. And if they replace him and the next person loses, they're going to say we should have kept Biden. Do y'all understand that? Nobody here wants to take responsibility for this trash fire. If you dump him, and the next person loses, they're going to say it's his fault, we should have kept Biden. And if they keep Biden and he loses, they're going to say, of course, we should have dumped him. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. What I'm telling you all is the fight won't be over by Election Day. It may just be getting kicked up. If somebody moves him out the way, it might just be getting ready to get kicked off. Remember, nobody has forgiven Bernie Sanders for 2016. Nobody. Nobody forgave Ted Kennedy after 1980. Nobody forgave Ralph Nader. Keep that in mind. Caller America Code 617, you're on live with the Black Channel. Is Biden going to be kicked out of the race? And if so, who's going to replace him?
Hi, this is Shell from Boston.
All right, Shell from Boston. And is Biden going to drop out of the race? And if so, who's going to replace him?
Well, under the 25th Amendment, if he can either resign or they can declare him incompetent, and 2/3 of the Senate or the House can vote and throw him out. But I've been hearing a couple of different things. One is I saw an interview today. Now, it might just be a bunch of BS, but that RFK Jr. is saying that he'd switch to the Democratic Party, and he'd beat Trump, which he's saying something like 71 million people are on his, that he's going to be taking away seven, millions of votes from them anyways. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, like I explained before, the 25th Amendment, his cabinet, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, already spoke about this. Remember, he's a constitutional lawyer. He's from Louisiana. Don't blame me. Don't blame me. I didn't vote for him. But he's a constitutional lawyer. He was on TV. He already explained this. I mean, his pedigree is constitutional law. And he already explained the 25th Amendment, that's not for Mike Johnson to say. The 25th Amendment would have to come from Biden's cabinet. So starting with the vice president, his cabinet would have to dump him. That's what I'm saying. Who wants to be the one to hold the knife when you stab Julius Caesar? Who wants to be the one to play Brutus and stab Julius Caesar? Because this is going to be your legacy. Folks, we've already seen this before. Hubert Humphreys, Richard Nixon. I mean, if you go after a president like this and you succeed, that's all you'll ever be known for. That's the only thing you will ever be known for, is you're the woman who got Biden out the White House. That's what you become known for then. It doesn't matter how noble your sentiments were. That's what you become known for, especially if you, now, here's the other side of it, especially if you attempt to pull a Letitia James. Letitia James, remember, got Governor Cuomo out, and then she wants to run. It's like, okay, and how long did that campaign last? So what I'm saying is, if Kamala Harris did it or went in on that, she would basically be conceding that's the end of her political career. You're not going to recover from that. Nobody's going to say, yay, we were hoping you would knock him off so we could vote for you. That's not what anybody's saying. So if she did it, she would just be going to be vindictive. But it's not like it's going to help her and her personal. She would either be doing it because she really thinks that's what's best for the country. She's doing it to be vindictive, but she would not be doing it because she felt like that was best for her political ambitions, because that would be the end of her career. So for those of you who don't know about the 25th Amendment, you would have to have the cabinet basically knock him off. Yeah, there's a way of reading it that says the Congress could do it, but you're not going to get Congress to agree to do that. You can't. The Democrats you're not going to get 2/3 to go along with that. So that's not going to happen. So you don't look to Congress or the Senate.
What about the chance of JFK Jr., RFK Jr.?
RFK Jr. is an outlier. He's an independent candidate, and basically he's going to suffer from Bernie Sanders disease. You may think that he's right. You may think that he's correct. But at the end of the day, he is persona non grata among Democrats. That's the problem. He plays well on the internet to people who watch YouTube and Instagram. But he had to go to the internet because he doesn't have the support of the party itself. If he did, he'd be on CNN and ABC. He doesn't actually have support among the party. Furthermore, he has been the anti-Democrat all this time. Remember?
Exactly.
So now you're going to take that was the problem with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders could never win. You're going to take an anti-Democrat and put him in charge of the party. That's not going to happen. First of all, the party won't allow it. That's the first reason. But the second reason is he spent all this time telling you all about what's wrong with you. As a party, not as individual. What's wrong with you? So, no, it's a nice little pipe dream, but in reality, it can't happen.
Oh, one other thing. What they were talking about is that Project 2025. Do you think Trump would actually consider someone that's not in politics, like a Steve Bannon?
No, but I'm glad you asked that. Trump, it's going to take some time for me to think this over, because right now, all those indictments, that's the game changer for Trump. Before now, he felt like he could take it easy, but he doesn't trust anybody anymore. And furthermore, he shouldn't. But he doesn't. If he did trust any of them, he trusts them a whole lot less now. It's going to be hard to get him to trust anybody. I can tell you a world that he probably would trust: entertainment. So I'm thinking an athlete or a celebrity. If there were an athlete, a viable athlete or viable celebrity, not Herschel Walker, for God's sake, he'd be like the Black Joe Biden. But
Seinfeld?
No, ma'am. Seinfeld's oh boy, you haven't followed Seinfeld very much. No, I
thought he was a Republican.
I didn't. You seen something? You seen something in his behavior that I have not seen. I haven't really seen him as being a Trump supporter. So if you saw that, you saw something I haven't seen. I'm thinking more like a professional athlete. I'm thinking more like that. But it would have to be somebody who doesn't have a bunch of political baggage, somebody who wants to be an apprentice, and somebody who doesn't have a bunch of strikes against them. So
I know Royce White. He's been running for a while. That previous NBA player, he just got the bid for senator in Minnesota.
It had to be somebody who has some national notoriety. That's why they were getting behind Herschel Walker to a degree. But Dwayne Johnson, no, Dwayne Johnson does not want to run for president or vice president. Dwayne Johnson wants to be the biggest star in Hollywood, which he currently is. And every once in a while, these professional wrestlers tell you they want to run for president because it gets headlines, but they're not running the damn thing. Do you realize how much of a pay cut Dwayne would take to run for president? So, no, I'm thinking like a white baseball player or something like that. Something along those lines.
Oh, the Tom Brady?
Yeah, I mean, think about that for a moment. If Tom Brady wanted to be his running mate, the election's over. The election's over. But seriously, right. I'm glad you said it. If Tom Brady said, I want to be vice president, the election's over. Who the hell would vote for Kamala Harris over Tom Brady? Who would do that? So, yes, you said that, and you might have been tongue-in-cheek, but actually, you're more correct than you think you are.
No, I'm not, because actually, Bob Kraft Steiner is about to run for mayor or governor of Massachusetts coming up.
Well, definitely. Somebody in the chat room, they're talking about the Manning brothers. Like I say, something along those lines. Like a popular Southern athlete. Like the Mannings, you get somebody from the South, they're popular. They'd be lockstep. Right, the South has always been solidly behind Trump, so that would really assuage a lot of his fears. But yeah, in a situation like that, a Tom Brady, you just nailed it. Yes, that's the prototype of what you're looking for. Either somebody who's already in Congress, okay, they're not an athlete, but somebody like that. That's who I believe that Trump is going to pick. He would have to. Anything else would be a disaster. Based on what I've seen, I think he doesn't need experience. He doesn't need experience. And furthermore, Trump doesn't want that. The real thing is, can you follow instructions and can you be a good, a good supporter, which is what that would be. So no, we don't have to have that. People don't remember Donald Trump wasn't a politician before he got elected president. He never held elective office before. His first elective office was straight to the top. He went straight to the top.
Yeah, but would they vote for Brady just because he's Brady?
Why not? They voted for Schwarzenegger because he was Schwarzenegger. They voted for Reagan because it was Reagan. They voted for Al Franken because he was Al Franken. They voted for Jesse Ventura because he was Jesse. I can go down the list of celebrities who've been elected to office. We can go down the list if you'd like. And they voted for Trump because he was Trump. So I can show you a long list of celebrities who got elected to big offices. Yes, ma'am. There's definitely precedent for over half a century now. Absolutely. Yes. The good thing about Tom Brady is that, yeah, he's made it clear that he's not an idiot. He's intelligent. He doesn't rub people the wrong way politically. What I'm saying is Tom Brady is a Republican that you could vote for without feeling that you're voting for a card-carrying Nazi. You'd be hoping that Trump has a heart attack in office so Tom Brady can be president. Tom Brady is he would be, if he would chose to do that, because I don't know his political party affiliation. I know about he's been in the White House stuff. I know he's kind of friendly with Trump. I get it. But it's in your best interest to be friendly with everybody. But what I'm saying is Tom Brady is a Republican that you wouldn't be terrified to vote for. He's a Republican that doesn't make you immediately think, oh God, MAGA. He doesn't do that. And that he is emotionally disarming, which is exactly what Trump needs. He needs somebody who doesn't make people say, oh my God. He would definitely disarm people. Definitely.
Would the Eagles clash though?
Tom Brady doesn't have an ego. Not in this regard, because this isn't football. He would be coming there to learn. So he doesn't want to look bad. So whatever Trump go with, he gonna roll with. But the real thing is, the bottom line is, you'd be voting for personalities here. And furthermore, this would be Trump's last time to serve no matter what happens. So if he does get elected, it's not like he can run for re-election again. So Tom doesn't really have to do anything except sit there. And when Trump's gone, as long as Tom has not mortally offended anybody. Remember, NFL quarterbacks, the best quarterbacks are also the ones who get along with their teammates. They're not offensive. They have to get along with Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Satanists, Christians, fundamentalists. They have to get along with everybody. And that's a positive. And Tom Brady has done it for a very long time. He played in the NFL for 2 decades? He's in it for a very long time, so he's shown he can do that.
He gets along with everybody.
He has a very good track record. There's not a bunch of there's no dirt on him politically, and very little dirt on him professionally, unless you're still holding that cheating to win games against him. But other than that, I mean, he's a clean slate. The ladies love him. Black people are not mortally offended by him, which is the big one. We're not mortally offended by him as a people. Whether being a Republican would bother you, you're not bothered by Tom Brady. If you do have an issue with him, it's not personal. You're not sitting there saying Tom Brady said something messed up that you don't like. You're like, you hanging out with some sketchy folk. Okay, but that's not personal. It's like, hey, Tom, I loved you at the game, but you're hanging out with some sketchy people. But that's okay. It's like, but you didn't say anything personally about him. So that's a whole different thing. So yes, you hit the nail on the head. You're looking for a Tom Brady type of archetype. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Yes. What she just said, that nailed it. You're looking for a Tom Brady, tall, photogenic, popular, nobody dislikes him. He brings all the things that you don't have. And he is not ambitious to replace you. He's not looking for a way to replace you. He wants to survive in this environment, but he doesn't want to challenge your authority. And that is right, line item, top to bottom. That's what you would be looking for. Yes, he's younger. He's younger, wildly popular, no dirt on him, and he just wants to get along with you. And he'll go along with whatever the program is, and he just follows your instructions. That's what Trump would be looking for. Yeah. Right there. Perfect. Now, I'm just saying, even if there's somebody in Congress who fits that bill already, I can't think of one that he would readily go to. But if there's one in Congress who does that, sure. But that's what you're looking for. Caller area code 425. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
How you doing? This is Mike calling from Seattle.
All right, Mike from Seattle. And is Biden going to drop out? And if so, who's going to replace him?
It doesn't matter if Biden drops out or stays. It's been already. Trump is going to be the president. When I look at people like Peter Thiel, the owner of PayPal, Schwartzman, Bill Ackman, who was a diehard Democrat billionaire who backed Obama, Biden, when they're all lining up, to quote the great Wesley Snipes in New Jack City that played Nino Brown, money talks and bullcrap run the marathon. When you got all the billionaires, Marion Adelson is giving Trump $100 million, but she's just going to give Trump $100 million because she just feels like she wants to give Trump $100 million? Trump is going to be the president. All this talk about Kamala Harris and all that, it doesn't matter who they get. It doesn't matter.
No.
Trump is going to be the president. He is. They're not going to give the billionaires.
You're
are not
counting your
going to
chickens. Well, first of all, Sheldon Adelson was a supporter of Donald Trump when he ran in 2016. So and then now he's dead. So the Adelson family has always been very good about that. Brother, what I would tell you right now is it's only June. I'm sorry, it's July now. That would be a very premature statement to make. A lot can happen in 4 months. A lot.
Right,
That's
a lot
an
can
eternity.
happen. I agree with you. On that. But when you have all the people the billionaires that supported Biden and Obama previously lining up behind Trump, you got to say something ain't adding up. you know what I mean? Like,
Hey, but billionaires pick sides. I mean, it's what they've done before. So what I'm saying is they've given a lot of money to candidates who didn't make it out the gate before. It didn't succeed before either. So that alone, it certainly helps. Having a lot of money certainly helps. It's not that they know something that you and I don't know. They just got money that you and I don't have. But does it help? Absolutely. But here's the thing. What I'm asking, though, is that the question we're asking here is is Biden going to drop out of the race? So there's the first thing.
I think definitely Biden is going to drop. I think Biden is going to drop out by. I think he's going to drop out by Monday. I think on Monday there's going to be an announcement that he's dropping out, and they're going to try to put. I don't know who they're going to put in there. They cannot put anybody in there over. That's what I keep saying. They cannot put anybody in there over Kamala. It's not going to work. Kamala has to be the head. I don't know who they're going to put behind her. And with Trump, it can't be two white men. I've been saying it from the beginning. It can't be two white guys. It's going to be, and now people say Vivek Ramaswamy. He came out of nowhere. Nobody heard of this guy months ago, 2 or 3 years ago. He came out, presidential Republican debates. Oh, I love Trump. I will pardon Trump. Trump is this, Trump. And all the Peter Thiels and all the David Sachs and all these multi-billionaires, the guy from Citadel, Ken Griffin, they love Vivek. He's speaking MAGA,
but
and
that's
guess what? He's a non-black.
That's the problem. Yeah, there you go. That non-black thing. Donald Trump don't like non-white folks. So number one, Vivek is a clone of Trump. And remember, folks, everybody thought that Rex Tillerson and more importantly, what was his name? John Bolton. Everybody thought that guy, all these old white men would get along with Trump just fine. They were the first ones he ran off. The guys who were most like him. Remember his attorney general, Sessions, all the old willful white dudes. Those were the first ones that Trump ran off because they're all too much alike. Would they all get in the room?
What was the other white guy he ran off? The general, what was his name? It was a guy that was his Secretary of State. He ran him off. He was he was a military guy. I forget his name.
Yeah, he was so important. I forgot his name too. But the thing is, like I say, just with that being the case, if you're too much like, he wants to be in charge. When he gets in the room, he wants to be in charge. He doesn't want a bunch of other dudes around him who want to be in charge. So if you come across as too assertive and too commanding, that's going to be a problem. And if you come across as too assertive and too commanding and attempting to correct him or tell him that there's another way of doing things, he doesn't want you to tell him there's another way of doing things. He wants you to go along with whatever he says. Rex Tillerson came from Exxon. He's got his own ideas. Vivek has his own ideas. These other folk have their own ideas. You go in that room with Trump, John Bolton had his own ideas. Nikki Haley, her own ideas. That's not going to go well with him, even if you're right. Even if you're correct, that actually would be a negative against you with him. So if you're too different from him, he don't like you. And if you're just like him, he definitely doesn't like you.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, vice president. They can't put anybody over Kamala because they just won't do that. They can't do that. It'll be Kamala and somebody like a Gavin Newsom, vice president. And I think Trump is going to go. Maybe he'll go with the white woman out of South Dakota. I don't know, but it's. I just think you cannot get. You got a Kamala Harris problem. You cannot.
It won't. That won't work.
She has got to be the head.
That won't. No, that won't work either. Everybody already knows Kamala doesn't have a snowball's chance on a microwave in hell. Your whole reason for wanting to dump Biden is because after the debate, you now don't think that he can win. Why would you replace a candidate that you are certain can't win with yet another candidate that you're more certain can't win? Why would you do that? You might as well just leave Biden where he is. Why go through all this trouble and all this upheaval just to get the same result? So I don't see that happening because already
I'm
know.
Thinking I'm hearing the media saying you can't, as a black woman, they can't remove Kamala. I think they think that if they remove Kamala, all heck is going to break loose and they will lose the black vote. I just don't see them. I don't see how they can get. I don't see what can they do besides her just saying, I just want to drop out. They can't. You got bowling ball Roland Martin talking about you can't mess over Kamala and everybody. I don't.
Roland is just talking.
You can just get rid of her.
Roland is just talking. He's a cheerleader. He doesn't have to be right, and he usually isn't. So anything that he says, remember, is self-serving. That's the way you have to understand. When Roland Martin talks, he's not thinking about the Democratic Party or America, what's best for them. He's thinking about what he thinks is best for Roland Martin. Joe Biden has ignored him. Joe Biden had... Roland Martin had an inside track to Hillary Clinton. He has since lost that. And by the way, after we watch what happened to Roland since 2016, it kind of makes it a little more clear why it is that he showed up looking all crazy after the election was over. Y'all remember the picture I put up of him years ago? I'm like, yeah, it makes a little more sense now because apparently he realized, dude, when she goes, you go. When she loses her in, you've lost yours. That's what's going to happen. When she goes down, he bet all the marbles on her. Sneaking her debate questions, everything else, he bet all the marbles on her. That was it. He bet the marbles on her, and it came up snake eyes. And with that being the case, I think now it puts it in better context that, yeah, you really don't have any other options. You really don't. So Kamala Harris, he's been stomping for her so heavy because he doesn't have a choice. What is he going to do? He has no stroke with the Biden White House, and he doesn't have any stroke with any other candidates either. So what else are you going to do? So he's hoping for a gig. There is no White House gig coming. There is no press secretary gig coming. He's stomping for Kamala Harris because she's the black candidate. That keeps him viable with the folks in his audience, I guess, but not because he thinks she's going anywhere, but he's hoping that he's influential enough that they won't completely ignore him, which is what they've been doing. So he just keeps throwing her name out there as, y'all need to remember me. Understand something. Probably the only person who hopes Joe Biden doesn't win is Roland Martin. Because if Biden loses, Roland Martin is going to jump up the very next day and say, if y'all gave me money, you wouldn't have lost. But you know, if they lose, Roland Martin is going to be, he's going to be on the, if he's not on the same day, he'll be on the next day, and he will be screaming to anybody who looks, if you had given me more money, if you had given me all the money I wanted, you wouldn't have lost the election. That's when he would.
But Jason, what does that mean for 2028 and 2032? That's what I'm thinking. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, what can we do as black people? Like, what, like 20, like, what is our demographic and power gonna be in 28 and 2032?
We're doing it now. We're doing it now, brother. Please understand me, folks. I know it's very tempting to fall for the for the bait or the temptation that progress needs to be made immediately. What you're seeing right now is the result of steady, consistent work. And if you will remain steady and consistent, that's all you have to really do. We've been consistent. This is not a battle for dollars in the political sense for us. It's not. This is a battle for hearts and minds to convince enough people that it's okay. This is a battle for hearts and minds. And I know nobody likes that because it looks like things are moving at a glacial pace. And trust me, I'm frustrated like anybody else would be. But I want you to recognize what you're really looking at. We've made tremendous progress. Things that people said were unthinkable to say. We've been doing it. We haven't been talking, we've been doing it. Now, things that folks said you couldn't talk about before, now they're openly saying it, and it is the common discourse. This is only, as long as we keep doing what we're doing, this is only going to get bigger. It's only going to get bigger because now we've gotten to a point where the Democrats, brother, this is not me. Go and listen to my program I just did here a couple weeks ago with Steve Harvey in front of Kamala Harris. What was he saying? The same thing that Roland said. All y'all stupid folks about not voting and reparations. Steve Harvey talking about people have been to the point that he interrupted Kamala Harris and I gotta say this right quick. All y'all folks talking about not voting and reparations. Y'all need to quit that foolishness. Brother, that's what I'm saying. Y'all gotta listen to the new black media if we're showing you that we're accurate, and I think I've shown them pretty accurate. If you're waiting for CNN to tell you that headline, it's never gonna happen. I told you that headline. I told you, hey, they're repeating us over here. The message has gotten through. We just gotta remain consistent. Brother, they sat there and said it. All y'all folk talking about reparations and you ain't gonna vote. Right there in front of Kamala Harris. Steve Harvey didn't go off script. You don't get to have the vice president and you go off script. That was the script. They're letting you know what they're worried about. They have got their focus polling and everything else told them, hey, the black vote ain't supporting us. As a matter of fact, there's a troubling number now in whole percentage points that's saying they're just going to stay home. And it's gaining traction. Please, people, understand something. Compound interest. Did Einstein say the most powerful force in the universe was compounding? You look up every year, if you lose 2 percentage points a year, you do realize you'll be dead in a couple decades. You'll be dead in 4 cycles. You'll be gone. You can't win an election if you're losing 2% a year over the course of 2 election cycles. And Trump won in 2016, and we're about to hit the second election cycle now. So when you ask what will it be in 2028 and 2032, my short answer to you is much worse. If we remain consistent. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get called from area code 718. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, it's Deborah from Brooklyn.
All right, Deborah from Brooklyn. And is Biden going to drop out? And if so, who's going to take over?
I don't think Biden can drop out because everything's set in stone. But my friends and I are talking, and they were expecting somebody else, and nobody's talking about this. But if something happened to Biden, Kamala would be president. But isn't Hakeem Jeffries next up in the queue? And then also, I'm thinking him for 25 or afterwards because he's quiet, he's consistent. The only problem a lot of young people have with him that I've been talking to is that he jumped in on the Ligbakusha thing, but other than that, he's cool, steady, quiet, and nobody's talking about him, but he is up in the queue.
The problem with House speakers is that House speakers tend to be understated people. They're so busy trying to hold on to their jobs that they can't really challenge for anything else. The job of the House Speaker is to be an unaggressive, unthreatening supporter of the president. That's the job of House Speakers. You don't get that job if you're jockeying to be president. That's why you can't name a House Speaker who's actually gone on to be president. So that's their political position. Furthermore, Hakeem Jeffries does not have widespread support. So he can't do anything now. That's why what you said was, what about 2025? Well, that would be the next election cycle, not the current one. So he's not a threat to anything. In the chat room there, no, Jeffries is not speaker. He's a Democratic majority leader. Mike Johnson is the speaker. So he's speaker of the House. But I mean, she's talking about as far as the party is concerned. So as far as the party is concerned, in ranking, the problem is he's down there, but you don't really want that. That would be an issue. So he doesn't get his job by being threatening or assertive. You don't get that job by being that.
Okay, that sounds good. And then for Trump's vice president, what about, we love Judge Joe, but Michael Jordan, what about Michael Jordan? He's quiet, and I really don't know where he lies politically.
Michael Jordan's only position has been himself, and he's not involved in politics. So Michael Jordan hasn't demonstrated he can do anything except help Michael Jordan. Here's the issue, folks. No matter who you would talk about and stuff, you have to ask yourself if that person could survive scrutiny. This isn't about how popular they are. It's about if you started scrutinizing them, what would happen? Michael Jordan, other than being an athlete, he hasn't done anything of any significance. Michael tends to be offensive in some ways. When you start getting off into his personal life, he starts to become offensive to people. Tom Brady doesn't quite have that issue. So he's worked,
Rubio is good.
He's worked very hard to protect his image. Marco, I will tell you, as far as the Latinos are concerned, as far as I'm concerned, only 2 of them actually exist. And both of them are in Florida. Senator Marco Rubio and Mayor Suarez of Miami. The only demerit against Suarez is he tried to run for president. So, as I told you, you look pretty damn threatening right now, Suarez. But that guy is smart. He's sharp. Miami has transformed under him even bigger. He's taken it to the next level. They are going to be on their way to being the epicenter of the Americas for certain. It's going to be the Dubai of America for certain. And Suarez is majorly responsible for steering that shit while it's occurred. He has not been horrendously offensive to black people. The only problem is you don't go from mayor to national politics. That be the issue there. If it did happen, this would be a first. This would be a first.
And Kristi Noem?
Kristi Noem has said some offensive things about black folk and, Black Lives Matter and things. So she's like I say, she might be okay with Trump, but does she play outside of, North Dakota? Does she play outside the Dakotas? That would be, you have a long way to go I don't think the country wants another Sarah Palin. I know for a lot of you who watched that with John McCain, a lot of you might be remembering that. I don't think either the Republican Party or the country wants another Sarah Palin. Another brunette white chick who's photogenic and looks like she could do OnlyFans if she's over a certain age. She's the aged out chick on OnlyFans. I think the country is over that. I think that you already cracked that nut before. It's not a novelty. The country already saw it, and they didn't like how it ended last time. They didn't like how it ended before.
And my attorney friends like Tulsi Gabbard.
I said the same thing about Tulsi. Tulsi lost her election.
Yeah.
So, like I said, she got her ass kicked by Hillary Clinton. She didn't handle it very well. And she hasn't demonstrated that she really wants to get back on the horse either. So other people are saying her name. Nobody else is. Mm-hmm. Now, that might be a good sign. If you're hearing silence, that might be a sign that people are considering her. But with that being, with anything else being the case, Tulsi hasn't done a lot to introduce herself back into body politic, and I don't see where she'd be a positive beyond that, although she could be. But she's just been so silent since then politically, like she's been on the internet, and she comments from here to that time to time, but she hasn't really demonstrated that she wants to get back into politics. So I think that would be difficult for her. The other names that folk name, like I say, is just, in my opinion, I think there's certain strikes against them. I'm not guaranteeing that none of them would be picked because somebody's got to be picked. I just don't know if that list, based on what we've seen Trump do, I'm just not so sure that that list would work in that regard. I think that anybody who looks to be a redux of Sarah Palin, I don't think that's going to work. I don't think a female who's too loud is going to work. I don't think a male who is too assertive and ambitious is going to work. So it's going to be a short list.
Knocked out Ramaswamy. When she said she wouldn't vote for him, that was it. It's like I think she just like knocked him out of the.
Well, I mean,
knocked him off the golf course.
On the internet, but what really does him in is he doesn't have support. These dudes who are rich and they're made for YouTube. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. So the things I want you all to understand what the issue is. The problem with RFK and Vivek Ramaswamy and anybody else you all want to name who's popular with you online is what I said, that plays on YouTube. It doesn't play in the general population. Being able to get 1 million views, what makes you viable and popular to get 1 million views on YouTube can actually do the exact opposite to you offline. Remember, YouTube's slow down. YouTube's remember how YouTube's algorithm works. YouTube's algorithm feeds you things that you're more likely to sit there and watch and, extends your time on the website. But what the algorithm has come to the conclusion of is in reality, people are more prone to tune into things they don't like, controversial things, than they are with things that they already agree with. So, as contrary as it may seem, a lot of Vivek's views come from people who wouldn't vote for him if you threw them in the trunk of a car and tossed it off of a river and tossed it off in the river. They would never vote for him. But you're seeing a bunch of views and you're assuming that all those views or most of those views are coming from people who can't wait to vote for him. And in reality, no, this is a YouTube video along with anything else. It's just another YouTube video with anything else. Most of those views may come from folks who think he's intriguing or interesting, but there's a good number of them from folks who wouldn't vote for him if their lives were on the line, and they're really going to just go dig up dirt on him and what you know about Ann Coulter. A number of people who listen to Viv, tune into his stuff, watch his videos, listen to him, just so they can come and tell him I'm not going to vote for you. And those, as you just went with Ann Coulter, and those people on his side of the fence. Yeah, I saw your videos, watched all of it. I'd never vote for you. Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. You got 1 million of those views. So what I'm saying is it becomes very deceptive. Don't get hung up on people who seem like they're popular online. The things that make you popular in an algorithm are not the things that would make you popular in real life. And you don't even have a good cross-section of who that algorithm is for. Beware of people who come out saying incendiary things. Donald Trump proved himself as a personality to the American public long before he ran for president. The Apprentice was really his coming out party, and he did it for years and years, so people feel like they know him. Vivek Ramaswamy was thinking, he fell into the seduction everybody else did. He jumped in with a bunch of money and says, I want to be president right now. And there's where you screwed up. He should have given himself.
He failed his investors, though, too. He failed investors. So.
He should have given himself 4 to 8 years if he was going to do this. You don't jump in 1 year because you got bank. He needs to give himself 4 to 8 years of stomping the pavement, meeting people, letting the election cycle pass, and just spend about 4 to 8 years stomping the pavement so you can get some credentials under your belt. Then you can try to run for something. But he didn't do that. So folks, I know it's very seductive to let the internet influence you into who you think is viable, which is its job, I suppose. But in reality, something that gets 1 million hits on YouTube has zero bearing to what's going to happen in the real world. It's just another video.
And one other thing, my friend who was in the medical industry, she's saying that when they were prepping Biden, they were prepping him, and what they would never talk about is they gave him too many drugs. And, and that's why he was slurred. She thinks that his speech was slurred because of the drugs, or whatever they did to him before they put him on stage. And supposedly he's only viable between 10 a.m. and 4 in the afternoon. So it was later. And but Trump definitely mopped the floor with them. It was sad.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, whatever the rocket fuel is they usually gave him, it didn't hold up this time. You put him out there, he's got to go out there and run a marathon. He's got to be standing for 90 minutes, which is going to be taxing. He's going to be hammered with questions for 90 minutes. And he's going to have to be, he's going to have to look in round 15 the way he looked in round 1. He didn't look good in round 1. So it's as time went on, it only got worse. So with that being the case, optics are not good. I mean, it's certainly not good. Now, how long people's memories are, I want you all to understand this is certainly a crystallizing moment. It's certainly going to dog him. The strategy now, if they got any sense, is going to be to just bury all of that under a number of positive appearances. And I also want everyone else to keep one more thing in mind. I do not care how much of a supporter of Donald Trump you are or Donald Trump you are not. I don't care how skeptical or negative or cynical you are about Joe Biden. I certainly am, have been, and will continue to be. I want you to remember one thing. We got 4 more months to go. And Donald Trump's ego already couldn't be contained on one planet to begin with. I wonder how much his ego was swollen in the last 7 days. I wonder how much bigger it is. I wonder how much more
in the last 72 hours since that Supreme Court decision.
I wonder how much more arrogant he's become and how much more you can't tell me nothing he is. And will that lead, in the midst of all this, could he snatch defeat from the jaws of victory and say or do something that the media who's already against him can latch on to? He's got 4 months to not fumble the ball. Well, for you and me, that would probably be easy. But you and me are not running. He is. A man who's demonstrated he can and will do it. So I want everyone, before you start, redecorating the furniture at the White House, please understand Donald Trump is a man who's demonstrated that he can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. He says whatever the hell comes into his head. He doesn't really think strategically. And he's got plenty of time to sink himself. Plenty of time. Plenty of time to make himself look
and Mitt Romney,
more unhinged than Biden. Mitt Romney's
Mitt Romney, huh?
No, Romney's not. No, Romney has. First of all, Romney ran for president before. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And further,
he actually beat Obama in the first debate.
Okay, let me address that real quick because people's memories are short. Mitt Romney did not wash Obama in that debate. It was up to your opinion whether or not you, quote, think Romney won the debate. Some people say that he had a better showing than Obama. Well, that's very interesting because the media didn't say that a decade ago. But let's just say now they had a change of heart. Okay, fine.
You're saying it now.
But the bottom line is it wasn't like he mopped the floor with Obama. It wasn't like Obama went out there and vomited all over himself. It wasn't a stellar performance, but it wasn't, anything like that. That wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. So that was not what happened. That wasn't what happened at all. It just wasn't. Right. He just wasn't. He did. Everybody expected him to go out there and wash Romney, and that didn't occur. But it wasn't like Obama got his clock cleaned. It wasn't like it was a disaster for Obama. So for the media to try to come up later and try to act like it was a disaster, that was not a disaster for Obama by any stretch of the imagination. We're not going to rewrite history in that regard. This was a disaster for Biden. This was a cataclysm. This was a catastrophe. Yeah. There was nothing good about this. This was awful. The whole debate, you're sitting there with your head in your hands. That didn't happen when Obama debated Romney. This was an unmitigated, unquestionable catastrophe. That's the problem.
Well, Obama's looks gave him a total advantage. So
right.
Everybody.
What I'm saying is that Obama, when you because I want to say they had 2 debates. And Obama looked much more, when he came in, he looked much more commanding. Does anybody think that's going to happen with Biden? Does anybody think a second debate's going to make him look better? If we're going to bring up the Obama-Romney debates, by the way, Obama got better when that happened. Does anybody think that Joe Biden in 2 months is going to look better than Joe Biden in 7 days ago? Does anybody think that's what's going to occur? So, okay, Jaden, give him 2 more months. Really? So, like I say, I think the next debate rule, if Biden gets to write the next debate rules, he's going to say we all get to bring lazy boys, and the debate's going to be 20 minutes long, and we all get to bring our lazy boys. We all get to bring our recliners.
Michelle Obama set the stage for Barack Obama, because all of us that actually volunteered for him, it's like we were looking at her and investigating her. You know, we investigated her, and then because she married him, that's why me and my crew, we supported him, was because of her. You know, so because she was FBA, you know, her story, her family story was like amazing, and she was the reason I was like, okay, he married a black woman. You know, she's my color. You know, la la la. And then all my friends were saying the same thing, and we all volunteered. You know, and then we all got smacked in the face too. But you know, she was the reason that he got elected, for real. You know, and I think you covered that earlier. So.
Well, definitely, like I say, I think if folks have been asking a few more questions, Michelle Obama was supposed to be his black credentials. And here's the problem with that one. This woman married a man who would never marry a black woman until he was willing to run for president.
Right.
He avoided black women until he needed one.
But that came out afterwards.
No, that
Nobody
was no. Okay, what I'm saying is that we talked about it here. What I'm saying is that as the majority, most of you didn't do your due diligence in that regard and were not skeptical enough. And there were certain reasons for that. I mean, George W. Bush had us bogged down in Iraq. But by the way, so there were certain other factors that were going on. The country was much more concerned about the catastrophe that George W. Bush was than whatever dating habits Obama had at the time. So in 2008, yes, it was the correct decision to vote for Obama. In 2008, it was the incorrect decision to continue supporting him by 2012, because by then there's no more illusions going on. So I don't blame anybody in 2008, but by 2012, it was very clear what we were dealing with at that point. And that's why I voted for Obama in 2008. I have no problem telling you all that. I voted for him in 2008. I abstained in 2012. Once we get there, I'm like, okay, you had your chance. And at that point, it's like, I'm looking at you and that broad you married side eyes now. And I would advise you all.
When the newspapers are giving her a great.
Well, I mean, that's their job. The cocktail circuit is always going to do that. If that woman walks out the doors and gets behind the microphone and has to go on CBS, ABC, Fox News, or anything else, we all know what's going to happen if she does. This isn't going to be the sister girl campaign. This isn't going to be Oprah Winfrey. You can't win an election just sitting with them. Folks are going to have every question known to man. And remember how this works in politics. Every piece of dirt and negativity that's now a decade old and things that you could ignore sitting on the beach in Venice or Cancun, now you can't ignore them anymore. Now you can't.
Nope.
Remember, we're going to George Floyd and refusing to prosecute these folks. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that George Floyd happened on their watch. I'm saying that lack of protecting us up until we got to that point. George Floyd happens because of what Obama didn't do. Trayvon Martin, Zimmerman, Darren Wilson, Eric Garner, and the actions of Obama's Attorney General Eric Holder, who she's been chummy with ever since. All that comes back. Watch the right wingers. The right wingers and stuff jumping up and saying, "Okay, we want all." It'll be Fox News reminding us what Obama didn't do. They'll be the ones saying it.
And Malia walking away too, I think, is choosing not to use the last name. I think that's kind of heavy considering how old she is.
Well, the issue there is,
her age.
I don't know how much that would weigh on things. I do know one thing. Those kids have not been a good look. It's clear that, especially where black people are concerned, the children take after Obama before he got with their mama. So that right there, that's what I'm saying. In this reality, actually, the kids become a negative. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. The kids become a negative. It becomes a negative. So Michelle Obama running for president, that's a nice little pipe dream that works with so-called liberals on TV who think that they know black people. Oh, you Negroes, you love Michelle Obama. If they put that woman out there, they're about to get a horrendously rude awakening. They're about to get a horrendously rude awakening. If they walk her out there and think she's going to be the cat's meow and we all just can't wait to vote for her, they're going to find out that she's far more popular in the newsroom at ABC than she is on ABC Street. That's what they're going to find out. What I'm going to tell people is if Joe Biden, okay, well, Jason, what do you think? Is Biden going to drop out of the race? Yes, he will if he has another disastrous appearance. If Biden has another disastrous appearance, or if his appearances do not give people any confidence, if his appearances just add up to being more doubt and more disaster, yeah, I would say he's going to drop out of the race, but he basically fell out on his own. It's like we don't even have to pull you anymore. It's already over. So he has another disastrous appearance, and that's going to be it. That's going to be it. He won't make it to August. If he has another disastrous appearance, he's out. He's out. That's why he's going to their buddy in the media, George Stephanopoulos, to make sure that doesn't happen. But he has another disastrous appearance, it's over. It's over. I predict that they would just let Kamala take over. The Democrats would write off 2024. They pull Biden for the sake of the party, not the election. They pull Biden for the sake of the party, not the election. They talk about we would have won if his dementia wasn't kicking in. They pull Biden. They put Harris in place because she was the designated hostage. And they don't want to promote her political career. She loses 2024. And then the Democrats get ready for 2028. They just write off 2024 altogether, and they get ready for 2028. If he does not have another disaster, he limps his way to November, and he hopes that Trump has an unforced error between now and November. And that's what happens. That's my prediction on it. There is another option, though. Now, I can't rule this one out, but I can't speak on it because I don't have enough information. If Biden's condition is deteriorating much faster than we thought it was, because they've kept all the information away from us, if the situation has deteriorated to a point that his inside people are like, hey, the medications ain't working, he's not being stable, we've taken this as far as we can, then he's going to drop out within the next couple weeks. So if he drops out in the next couple of weeks, it's because he's not responding to medication anymore or anything, or not enough for them to run an election. I don't have that information to be certain, but my prediction is if he drops out in the next couple of weeks, that's because we can't even keep the medication working. And they're like, hey, the ass is falling out. We can't hide any of it anymore. He can no longer do any of this. I don't think he's that far gone. I don't think he's that far gone along yet, but the train has left the station. In any case, we will be here for it. And I will be here tomorrow night. It's time for our 4th of July program, so definitely I want to invite all of you to join us for that as well. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support us on tonight's program, as well as supporting us for the documentary film 8 a.m. We have 904 backers. We have another week to go. Thousands of you here right now. If 1,000 people, I want to challenge 1,000 people here to become backers of the project right now. If we did that, we would outdo anything that we've previously done. I want to get that up here. I think that would be a great accomplishment for us to have. So 5,000 people tuned in here tonight. We got 4,000 people in here live right now. I want to see 2,000 people supporting this project. Can we do that? Let's go for it. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program. Thank you for watching live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.